Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Chris, before we get to debate stuff, can I have a couple of palate cleansers, the sorbet or the lemon that you put in your mouth to, make sure to get all the other tastes out? Can you just give me some Mad Dog on the New York Jets, please, just as a bit of a palate cleanser to start off our day?
You cannot perform this way. I mean, I understand, all right? I didn't expect you to win, but can you go out there and at least keep me? I went to bed at 7.5 minutes to go read my book on Kent State from 1970. May 4th. It's a good book. It's about Kent State. A lot of issues with that, too. We'll get to that. I mean, but that's how bad the game was. There was no need to watch it. I said enough. I'm watching this. I'm annoyed anyway. And when do I ever get annoyed about the Jets? I'm not a Jet fan. But here's the one time I open up my big fat mouth and tell the world I bet the Jets on an over because I'm that confident. I take them every which way as possible. And they go out there and they lay a proverbial big fat egg.
That did help. I feel better.
I mean, the great part is just the Kent State book. It's so
We'll get to that
random.
later.
Sounds like an interesting book.
I know. We'll get to that later. I have issues with that as well. He's the best.
Well, it's not about Kent State football. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I
about,
assume it's about the National Guard shooting people.
Yes,
Dan.
the protests on the U.S. invasion of Cambodia. I suspect probably not Kent State football. What is Kent State football? What is their mascot?
The Golden Flashes.
The Flashes.
They lost this weekend to St. Francis. Rough time for them.
Yeah.
I need another palate cleanser, please. More palate cleanser to get some of that debate off of me from last night. Let's go ahead and just play the first caller to Cleveland radio. Is this after the whole Deshaun Watson losing by 1 million points at home to Dallas? First caller to Cleveland radio.
Dave in Macedonia, you're first up on the fan. Hello.
Good morning, boys.
All right.
He's quoting Daniel Caffey. Please. There's some, two numbers. You'll figure them out. 42.9, 144.
What is all this?
Watson's quarterback rating, Mayfield's quarterback rating.
Oh, Christ. I can't do this
Hold
for
on.
one more second. No, that's enough. That's enough. The first call out of the box, we're going to do this. The very first call of the box, we're going to do this. No. I know what his quarterback rating was. I know that he was good. Guys, I'm not doing it right out of the damn box. Can I have a little bit of time before we do this? Can I have a little bit of time? That he ain't coming home. He ain't coming back. Only to play us. That's it. He had a great day down there. Congratulations on all his success. I can't undo the trade. I can't undo it. You ready to go to another one?
Go ahead.
That's from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland.
Sports radio.
Yes. After week one, let's do some more palate cleansing. Let's get to Stugotz's top fives here.
Wow.
On
all of them?
All of them. Let's get to all of them here. Billy, what happened? What do you make?
I'm a little worried if we're doing all the palate cleansing now, what's to come.
Yeah.
Because we're going to run out of palate cleansing materials to cleanse
Do
our
you?
palates.
I don't think football will allow us.
I'm here. We'll be good.
I don't think we're going to be able to run out of palate cleansing material. Although, before we get to Stugotz's football things, I am curious from the group how you feel about the following, because I said the other day I don't know how surprised you're allowed to be when you see police officers being abusive anymore via video. But I also don't know how surprised I'm allowed to be, Stugotz, at the sheer number of people who don't think the police did anything wrong there, that they're blaming Tyreek Hill. Well, you sped, and you need to comply with everything after that. And also, all your previous crimes make you a bad victim. So I'm going to support the police here no matter what. I don't know that I'm allowed to be surprised by that either. If I'm telling you, you can't be surprised by the divisions in America that make it so that Black people are tired of being perceived as a threat, but their life experience is a little bit different than some life experiences. So what you get is, oh, wait a minute. The police seem every bit the threat that the police behave like Black people are. And so if you have two threats meeting each other, it's where and how things escalate. But I'm not allowed to be surprised that so many people, especially on right-wing websites, which is what Twitter now is, just simply side with the police.
His previous stuff has nothing to do with this particular incident. It's an isolated incident. And no, you're not allowed to be surprised that people are going to defend the cops and they're going to go after Tyreek Hill.
But rare, Stugotz, is any circumstance where you find that one side is 100% in the right and the other side is 100% in the wrong. You can have Tyreek Hill being wrong without it needing to escalate to where it escalated to, and then a blind defense of the police after that.
Well, Tyreek Hill said, hey, write me the ticket so I can get to work.
Stugotz, he was arrogant.
No, I'm not saying he wasn't arrogant. I'm not saying he wasn't in the wrong. It escalated too much. It escalated too quickly. He said, give me my ticket, let me move on with my day. I've said that to a cop before.
Yes, we have had.
Didn't escalate.
Well, I have seen plenty of videos of white people berating police officers and Black people super confused about behaving that way with the police because, man, I have very few Black friends who ever think a problem gets better by calling the police. Like, that's not my experience with the police. My experience with the police, even though I've been arrested for sarcasm, if I'm in trouble, I don't think the police are going to make it worse for me upon arrival. That has not been my life experience. But I haven't had my parents teach me that that's not the way Tyreek Hill, the way that he reacted to that, is not the way you react to a police officer if you're thinking of him or her as a threat the moment they arrive. Not as protection, not as enforcement, as a threat the moment they arrive. And so my parents didn't teach me to put the hands on the steering wheel and yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yeah. When you got arrested and you said, what are you charging me with? Did they actually say sarcasm?
No, it escalated because I became more and more sarcastic, telling the officer, congratulations in crime-ridden Miami for being the guy who protects the French fries at Johnny Rockets, and then I got arrested.
Okay.
That would hurt.
That I hurt the police officer?
I mean, I'm just like, yeah, if I was a cop, I'd arrest you after that. That's a jerk move.
Yeah.
I'm just working these French fries. I'm not always here. I do more important things than this. I'm not always protecting the French fries.
You would have cuffed him?
What was the top 5 palate cleanser? I retract my original pushback on that. I think it's time for the palate cleanser.
Do you have any palate cleansers today?
Do I?
Yes.
No, I mean, I have news if you want some news.
Whoa. Well, you're saying we need palate cleansers.
Well, we were going to get to a top 5, I thought, no?
3 of them.
But you don't have any, though?
I mean, I could tell you want to talk some Marlins uniforms news?
Oh, wow.
I saw this tweet yesterday. You're on the beat.
I can tell you that Saturday, November 21st, if you like the City Connect red uniforms, is your last chance to watch them because they are retiring those City Connect red uniforms.
Really? I like those.
Caliente.
Yeah, they are going to be introducing a new City Connect uniform next year. Now, I've done some additional
That's your news break.
around.
That was your original. You're repeating. This is a recycled news break by you.
It's like stats, right? Like if it's out there, it's, did I put it out there? Yes. Did I create the news? No. I just, reported the news.
I picture these scoops like an auction. Like all the local reporters are like, all right, I got this story. And then like no one's bidding. And Billy's like, I'll take that one. $10. No one?
Well, if no one's
going
bidding,
once.
why $10?
Going twice.
Just give $1.
Okay.
You're saying 10's too high, Stugotz?
Yeah, why go straight to 10 if you can get them for $1? And Billy's all about getting a bargain. I mean,
All right, so I will not share the news with you if you will mock me.
Let's do Stugotz's top 5 0-1 teams.
Oh, the 0-1s.
Do you have any OLI?
Nope, just
All
5, Dan.
Number 5.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Number 4.
Indianapolis Colts.
I'd reverse the order on those. Number 3.
My list, Cincinnati Bengals.
Number 2.
Los Angeles Rams.
Tony made a face on that one.
That's
like a
all right.
bad
The
smell.
Puka news.
Like,
Puka news hurts.
He can make his list.
It does hurt, though. You do agree that the Puka news hurts, right? No?
It hurts, but I like that team. I like that coach.
Number 1.
Baltimore Ravens.
Time now for Stugotz's top 5 1-0 teams.
Well,
or top 5 worst 1-0
The worst
teams.
1-0 teams. They're 1-0, but I'm not certain I believe in them.
All right, top 5 worst 1-0 teams. They're not going to just be the teams that beat all those teams, are they? Number 5.
The Chargers.
Number 4.
The Patriots.
That's a bad football team. Like, no one's going to convince me that that's not the bottom of that division.
How's that not higher on this list?
Good defense, though.
My list.
Yeah, good half a team, or an okay half a team.
All right.
Number 3.
The Saints. Not buying it.
Really?
Nope.
Number 2.
The Vikings. I know Sam Darnold, potential. Jess has him as the Week 1 MVP in the NFL. I am not buying it. I am not buying this football team. Nope.
Well, that's just because of your previous Sam Darnold
I hate them.
bias.
Yes.
Well, but it's your Sam Darnold bias. You will not believe that Sam Darnold will lead a winning football team.
Vikings-Niners this weekend. Revenge game for Sam Darnold. How about that? I mean,
We also got Bengals at Chiefs this weekend.
oh,
4
that's
o'clock.
a big one. Yeah.
Jessica, how's that a revenge game?
Darnold spent the last season with the Niners. I mean,
I don't even remember that.
he started.
I don't remember.
Can we do worst 0-1 teams next?
Sure.
Number 1.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
What?
Something's off, Dano.
You're not going to do that again, are you? You're not going to do that again.
I just did it.
Okay, well, hold on a second.
Oh,
This is...
Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
He has a Chiefs hat now. I thought we were Midwest guys this year.
I mean, Chiefs Kingdom. I just listened. We were there. I wasn't that impressed. I got to be honest.
Well, you didn't watch the game. You were schmoozing in a suite half the time.
That's a good point.
All of your Chiefs words are irrelevant all season. You can't be allowed to comment on this football team when you've been the most wrong of anyone on the Chiefs the last couple of seasons. There's no one nationally who's been more wrong on the Chiefs. There have to be consequences for that.
He's going to be right one of these years.
He was almost right last year until they went
won
on
the
a
Super
run
Bowl.
and won the Super Bowl.
If the-
Other than that, though, he was, on the path to being possibly right.
Not to bring us back to politics, but it does seem like this election may be tearing apart the Chiefs locker room.
Taylor Swift made her endorsement immediately after the debate last night. Was that how that happened?
Oddly timed. Right when the debate was over, she endorsed him. Think they planned that out?
No, her.
No, I think she just went on Instagram and wrote out 3 paragraphs without thinking about it ahead of time, Chris.
She endorsed her, Chris. You might want to get this right. I understand that you're a little bit confused. For those
Did
of
he
you,
say him?
yes, he
Oh.
did say him. For those of you confused by just in general all Chris Cody things, I present to you what it is that Chris Cody did last night to his unsuspecting parents. I don't know why you were with them. It must have been your dad's birthday, right? Your dad chose to celebrate his birthday by watching the debate with your mother, and you did the move, and I'm here for this being an evolution of your relationship with your parents. Highly Questionable was born, at least in part, from secretly recorded phone calls with my father that my father did not know I was recording, but he would not prosecute me for illegally taping him without his knowledge and then airing it. So I was able to get away with a crime many times. Chris Cody did this to his parents last night, and I wish for you to continue doing things like this.
Well, debate night was a big night for my parents last night, and we were going over there. We went over there for cake at 7 p.m. because my parents were like, I need you over here for cake, and then you get out of here because it's debate night. So I just knew it was a big night for my parents.
We had a cake here for Greg yesterday. He left before we could even sing him happy birthday and blow out the candles. He was in such a rush that we just had a melted football cake here sitting on a counter.
That's so sad. A melted football cake.
Yeah,
is
he
the
didn't
saddest
want to
thing
wait
I've
for us
ever
to
heard.
sing to him.
And if you know around here, we're kind of an open book about our politics, but not me. Down the middle, Chris. Me and Roy. We're down the middle. You don't know where we sit in politics. I don't talk about it. People don't know. My mom, my dad, they're pretty open, okay? They lean left, right? It's no surprise. So I went over there, and I just, I told them that maybe, my vote was up for grabs, and this is how it went.
I think my vote's really up for grabs tonight. What do you mean? What do you mean? No way. Don't tell me that.
Don't even say that to me.
What?
Don't tell me that on my birthday.
I just want to hear what Trump has to say. I think he's really.
He's got nothing to say.
I think he's really going to change his tone. I think we're going to get a new Trump tonight.
Oh, God. He's the worst person.
He seems to have turned a corner.
I'm going to punch you in a minute.
We were just talking about how,
That is so strange.
You don't think J.D. Vance seems like a good hang?
A good hang?
Yeah.
You people are so strange.
There's nothing Trump could say tonight to
Pathological liar.
Well, first of all, every
evil person.
every politician knows
The only
how
person he cares about is him.
I would vote for this before I would vote for Donald Trump.
a toy that Charlie chewed up?
Yes, there is nothing he can say to make
There
me
is
vote for him.
literally nothing he can
I just want to keep an open mind.
Down the middle, Chris.
Diplomacy. I like it. I like that you were trying to reach across the aisle.
I mean, my mind's not made up. I go into everything. I'm going to take all the information in, and then I'm going to make my decision. All right?
Let's hear.
Did you last night, or do you need another debate here? Still on the fence?
Still digesting.
Okay.
Want to hear what Tim Miller says in a little bit?
Let's hear Trump's reaction to hearing that Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala.
Just to finish up on that point, then.
By the way, Lawrence is doing a very good job, I have to say. He really is.
He's doing great. Hey, I've got a quick question for you. Out of nowhere, after the debate last night, Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris. What do you think?
Well, I actually like Mrs. I actually like Mrs. Mahomes much better, if you want to know the truth. She's a big Trump fan. I was not a Taylor Swift fan. It was just a question of time. She couldn't. You couldn't possibly endorse Biden. You look at Biden, you couldn't possibly endorse him. But she's a very liberal person. She seems to always endorse a Democrat, and she'll probably pay a price for it at in the marketplace. But no, I like.
All right, fade that out there. He is causing division in the Chiefs locker room. He doesn't want to lose the swing football city of Kansas City.
Could he not find her name? There was a weird pause. He's like, I'm a Mrs. Mahomes. She likes me.
Can we go back really quick to Chris talking to his parents? There are two things that stood out to me. One, your dad saying, "Don't tell me this on my birthday." That just ruined. Dan wrote him this nice monologue. He had a football cake that he didn't eat any of. And then they had a nice dinner. But this is like a birthday ruining surprise. And then also your mom threatening to punch you.
The chewed up Charlie toy being something that he would vote for first, and you helpfully offering the visual aid because you've gotten used to us becoming a video thing and not just speaking in audio.
I would vote for this before I would vote for Donald Trump.
A toy that Charlie chewed up?
Yes, there is nothing he can say to make.
Please keep taping your dad in private. One of my favorite things about yesterday's monologue to celebrate Greg Cody is that many of you, and given the subject matter of what it is that I was talking about and how, many of you thought that either Poppy or Greg Cody had died, which was just lovely.
It wasn't just me when you did the Ron McGill thing. I was like, oh my God, Ron McGill died. Dan, you have a knack for doing these things. Maybe we turn the lights on a little bit. It was too dark.
Greg was sitting across the table from me, and I thought he was dead.
It's not the greatest reaction to have when what you're trying to do is summon a happy birthday. Yeah. For people to think that the person that you are saying, you're sort of sermonizing on behalf of that you're giving a eulogy. I think it's one of my favorite things about it that because I was talking about living and dying, that many people were worried. There were people checking the internet to see if there was news in the middle of me talking because they couldn't wait to the reveal of, well, is Greg Cody there and dead, or is he not there, or is he dead and not there?
I feel like when Greg actually dies someday, you're going to also whiff on the tone of that. Like, we're going to tune in. You're going to be super
birthday to you.
Everyone's going to be even more confused.
Let's find the laughter.
Is this a bit?
Stugotz has handed me something that is a significant news item about Stugotz's personal record book, The Real Winners and Losers in Sports, based on yesterday's sale in the Amazon book rankings of Sociology of Sports.
What?
Number 1.
Huh?
Sports humor. Number 1.
I'm not joking. This is not a book of jokes. It's my personal record book that I take very, very seriously.
Sports essays. Number 1.
Yes.
Sports essays, sports humor, and sociology of sports.
I love it. Thank you to all the listeners who are purchasing the book. Appreciate it. The pre-order is still on. You can go to StugottsBook.com. You get 2 bonus chapters. I'm just happy I'm ahead of Greeny. I got to be honest with you. Makes me feel good.
I've told you before that Greeny told me that he wanted to write a book that people remembered forever. My response was, like the Quran. And he keeps trying to write books so that someone can remember it forever. But number 1 in sociology of sports is Stugotz. That's a bit of a surprise.
It's an upset.
The sociology of sports is generally not something that I associate with the resume of one Stugotz.
I'll take it.
How many of you yesterday, and I didn't think this could happen to me anymore, Stugotz, with celebrity, right? I remember when we were talking about Tiger Woods and how we behaved around his infidelity and how bad you ended up feeling because all of us gathered around his private life in a way that made him hug his mother in public, and you were saying all along for months, I need to see it, I want to see it, and then you saw it and you're like, I regret wanting to see the discomfort of all of that. Mm-hmm. But many people with Tiger Woods felt betrayed because they believed the commercials. They did not think he would be capable of some sort of immorality that was that seismic, because they were buying the product that was being sold to us. Dave Grohl yesterday, I got caught off guard by that. And that makes me a fool. He's a rock star. It makes me an idiot. I don't expect my rock stars to be faithful, but I was still disappointed by that because I thought he was different for some reason.
I'm so sick of when someone does something that is like something that other famous people do, the reaction being like, well, are you surprised, Tony? No.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, a little bit. But what am I supposed to do? Just not talk about it? Not be like, surprise kid. Like, unfazed. Like, it's Dave Grohl. Yeah, I'm a little surprised he has a kid with someone else. It's not just that he cheated on his wife. He has a kid, and he announced it on his Instagram posts in a weird font and in a very passive voice.
While touring with his kid, correct?
I don't know.
I thought it was while touring with his kid. Are a lot of people making the I've got another confession to make joke?
Yes. Every person has made that joke, and it has been funny every time.
Very interesting font. Like, what do you think he's doing here? What's
it's
going
a weird
on with
font,
this font?
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not Comic Sans, but it's something. I'm going to get back to you on this.
I'm with Tony on this, though. You cannot be surprised when the rock star cheats on his wife.
The rock star, the athlete, people who have access to fame, money, people are doing things that are unscrupulous. Okay.
So wait a minute.
Why am I surprised by that?
Are you incapable, are both of you incapable of being surprised by anybody on this front? Like, if I make anyone a famous athlete, famous musician, you guys are going to say, yep, I don't believe that person when they are projecting family person.
100%.
What if I did it? More or less shocked?
Yeah, where are you drawing the line
I'd be more shocked if Chris
here?
did it. Chris is a good guy.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What does that mean?
He's a good guy.
But he's got access to temptation as well. His father's very famous.
And that's what I'm saying. He's a good guy, so he shuns that.
We know
other
Chris.
people.
Yeah.
I think Dave Grohl has more access than Chris.
It's close.
I wonder if we are so numb to all manner of immorality that none of us can be surprised by anything.
I'm surprised you guys still put celebrities on a pedestal and think that they're holier than everyone else. Like, they're human beings. They're capable of doing things.
Who's doing that?
You guys
putting
that are
them on a
surprised.
You just said it. You were surprised.
Yeah, but that's not putting someone on a pedestal. That's just being like, I'm surprised you cheated on his wife and has a kid.
Tim Miller was the communications director for the presidential campaign of Jeb Bush in 2016. The Bulwark podcast that he does has gotten very popular every weekday, almost as popular as ours, you guys. In fact, if crazy keeps happening in the elections, his is going to get more popular than ours very quickly because he does things that are bite-sized, understandable, and get you caught up very quickly on everything happening everywhere.
You have the crazy stuff stopping?
That's correct. He's probably going to pass us here in the next couple of months, but he was in the spin room last night at the debate. And before I get to playing some clips for you, just your overall thoughts, Tim, on what it is that you saw there. And can anyone have their minds changed by anything they saw last night?
Yes. Hey, Dan, people can have their minds changed. If you don't mind, I need to eat a little dog to start, just for my integrity's purposes. The last time I was here, Stugotz was trying to get me to pick on Joe Biden, and I acknowledged it was the morning before that last horrific debate in Atlanta, which I also had to suffer through in person. And I acknowledged that he was too old and I wished he was younger and made a joke about it. But I do not think that I enunciated to the audience before that debate anything that would have prepared them for the disaster that would have unfolded. So I just want to throw that out there. Mercy of the court with Stugotz. I'm eating pet on this, and that's just my mea culpa. As for last night in Philly, Trump was just horrible. I mean, there's an old Alex Castellanos is an old Miami consultant down there, old Republican guy, and his rule of thumb is always you can decide who wins the debate by just muting it. You don't even have to listen. And Trump looked seething. He was angry. His makeup looked bad. His little neck hole was pulsing. He wouldn't even look at her. He couldn't even look at the vice president. She was staring him down most of the debate, and he couldn't even look her direction. And so I think his answers were gibberish, but he looked like a guy that was old and losing control of his faculties. And we look, there were dial tests last night. I can tell you, the Harris campaign and some media outlets that I spoke to in the spin room, they're talking to people who say they're undecided, who were moved by last night's debate. A couple of weirdos in Trump's direction, but overwhelmingly people were moved in Harris's direction.
Which of the things bothered Trump the most, if you had to guess? Being told by her that military leaders think he's a disgrace, that world leaders laugh at him, or that his crowds, people walk out because his rallies are boring?
I wish I could say it was the line where Putin is going to eat you for lunch and that world leaders laugh at you, because that's what I enjoyed the most. But clearly the crowd size thing is what gets under his skin the most. And, that happened early. Here's the thing. Harris, I thought, was a little nervous in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It wasn't even good bait. I'm not a fisherman, so I can't really extend this metaphor any further. But her line about how his crowds were sad was not particularly well delivered, and it was during the immigration portion of the debate, which should have been his strong suit, and he immediately got totally derailed into defending his crowd size right at the moment he should have been on offense against Harris, on an issue that's strong for him. And it was in that answer that he goes off about eating pets and how the Haitians, you guys know Haitians, they're Haitians down there. The Haitians are apparently abducting dogs and cats and eating them. And so that kind of moment where she trolled him over the crowd size during the immigration portion, I think is really where things changed.
How many people are out there with a very different assessment than yours saying, no, Trump was great last night, or good last night, not horrible last night?
Yeah, I mean, look, and there's some people for whom Trump can do no wrong, but I can tell you, I went around the spin room, and as a former Republican, you mentioned I used to work for Jeb. I know some of these guys. I don't really know the super MAGA ones, but the ones who've been around, I know. And I was talking to them, and their body language was bad. They would give me real talk if they thought he was good, if they thought they had something a point to argue. Matt Gaetz, I talked to for a little bit. Me and Gaetz go way back. We're about the same age. And, he was in debate prep. And, Gaetz is a guy that for all of his horrible traits, can just give you real talk. Like, when we're off the camera, he won't BS. Like he'll tell you what he really thinks. And he didn't have any. Like he couldn't enunciate a good thing that Trump did last night. I mean, you could just sense that that they were without a leg to stand on. Look, I've advised. Look, we mentioned Jeb. I've advised guys that lost debates. We lost plenty of debates to Trump. Usually, what you do in that case in the spin room is you come out and you think of a good thing that your candidate did. And you're like, you really hang your hat on that. You're like, well, we had this great moment where he got the better of the opponent on this or that. There wasn't even a moment. They didn't have one. I asked Corey Lewandowski what the best moment was. He couldn't name one. I asked a couple other people who your listeners wouldn't know, but other kind of MAGA advisors of Trump. They couldn't come up with anything. All they had was complaining about the moderators.
Tim, I agree with everything you're saying, but I will ask you this. Does
Please.
it matter? Does it matter?
I think it matters on the margins, and here's why. Because Harris, since that Biden debate, and the switch, Harris has coalesced kind of like the traditional Democrats who didn't like Biden, which was a significant amount, particularly younger men, lower income men, were not happy with Biden, not happy with the economy. There were young people who weren't happy with Gaza. And she has coalesced all of them. And that took the race from one where Trump was winning to one that's basically tied. Maybe she's winning just a little bit. But there is another group of about 2 or 3% people that might stay home because they hate both, the double haters they call them, people that are my people that are traditionally Republicans, voted for Romney probably, maybe voted for Trump once, maybe said it out last time. They're gettable. It's not a huge number of people, but it's 1 or 2%. And because of the nature of the Electoral College, not to get too dorky here, but Republicans have an advantage in the Electoral College. And so Harris really needs to win by like 3 points to win. And so moving from being up by 1 or tied to kind of getting that 1 or 2% of people, either people that were on the sidelines and were like, okay, I wasn't sure about her. I hadn't really seen her get tested. That she passed the acceptability bar for me, and I'm sick of this guy. I'm ready to move on. Those people exist. I mean, you see them in focus groups. I talked to one in my life. One of my buddies from college one of his friends was like this. We had dinner earlier this week. So they're out there, and they are important for Harris to get because she needs to get a little bit of a cushion if she wants to win in the Electoral College.
The Chris Codys of America. Can you tell us what is the fairest criticism of the moderators and what you thought in general of criticizing the moderators?
Yeah, I don't really love criticizing the moderators. It's a tough job, and they're not there to be fact checkers. I do think that there are liberals out there that are like, the moderator should be fact checking all the time. My criticism of them, I thought that there were a couple of appropriate times to fact check. And when Trump's like, they're eating the dogs, and David Muir said, well, I called the city manager, and he says they're not. I thought that was appropriate. I'm blanking off the top of my head. There was one other one where they fact checked where I thought it was appropriate. There was a moment in the debate where I thought that they fact checked him like 4 or 5 times in a row. And let's be honest, he's lying the whole time. So you could fact check him all night. And it felt a little excessive to me in maybe one moment. But I thought I'd give him an A-. I thought that they hit all the topics. Personally, I'm obsessed with the democracy stuff. I kind of wish they would have talked about January 6th earlier in the night, but they got to it. They got to all the. And there's no major topic you could say they didn't ask about, and I thought the fact checks were largely appropriate.
I think the other fact check that you're referring to was the one about abortion and killing babies after they're
Correct.
being born.
That is the other one.
There were also a few times where they tried to pin him down on whether the election was stolen, on whether he wanted Ukraine to win the war, on if he would sign a national abortion ban, and he wouldn't give straight answers to any of those questions. I guess were you surprised when he said that he hasn't talked to J.D. Vance at all about his stance on abortion?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. The abortion answer was then right after that immigration crowd-sized dog exchange. The next segment of the debate was the abortion. And this is where the debate really goes off the rails for Trump. It's like he didn't prepare for that question. His initial answer about abortion was totally nonsensical. It was all over the place. He was trying to be for the states, but also for the Supreme Court justices, but also for reproductive rights. He didn't give a coherent position. then her response was extremely powerful, I thought, just referencing the examples of women who had wanted pregnancies that couldn't get the care they needed because of these laws in 20 states. And then they go back to him with a specific question about about whether he would veto. This question is coming. You have to know what your vice presidential candidate said about this. Trump is a sicko. He monitors this stuff all the time. He doesn't do anything except for golf and watch Fox. And so he had to have known that it was out there. And it was as if they didn't prep for that, the most obvious question of the debate. And maybe they did prep and he just didn't like the answers, or he's just starting to get too old to remember the lines that he's supposed to give. That one is bewildering.
Stugotz,
really.
So Chris Wallace, son of Mike Wallace, was a genuine newsman at Fox, and then the middle moved, and someone who was middle and neutral became someone who's on CNN. He was too much of a journalist to remain at Fox. This was his assessment last night of everything that happened, and I want to get Tim's reaction to this.
I didn't think I was ever going to witness a debate as devastating as the one that you and Dana moderated back in June, where Joe Biden basically tanked his reelection campaign. I think tonight was just as devastating. I think that Kamala Harris pitched a shutout on almost every subject I can think of. She shut Trump down on abortion. She shut Trump down on January 6th and democracy. She shut him down on national security and turned to the former president and said, the military leaders who served with you think that you're a disgrace. And then, as Dana mentioned, very powerfully at the end, made the point that she is the candidate of change. We need to turn the page from a decade of division and polarization. On substance, I think she pitched a shutout, and I think she did on style as well.
Tim?
I'm with him 95% of the way there. I do think she pitched a shutout. Again, I can't think of a good point that Donald Trump had or an exchange that he got the better of. As bad as the Biden debate. We're not going back, as Kamala says. We don't need to litigate it, but I don't know that it was as bad as the Biden debate. Biden couldn't talk. I think that it was maybe the second worst debate in modern presidential history, which, I don't know. Trump likes awards.
The Bulwark Podcast, as I said, every weekday, if you want to get caught up quickly, the communications director for the presidential campaign of Jeb Bush in 2016, Tim Miller. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Who would surprise you more having a child out of wedlock, Dave Grohl or Chris Cody? At Le Batard Show. Because I do think that you're allowed to be surprised sometimes by the public image of someone fooling you on what you thought they were versus what they end up being.
I fell for it with Tiger Woods. We discussed that earlier. I will never fall for it again. I won't. Sorry. Can't be surprised.
I think there's a difference between putting someone on a pedestal and then being surprised when something in their personal life doesn't fit with their image. I think that there's a difference there. There's just some gray area.
Would you be surprised if Patrick Mahomes cheated on his wife?
A little bit, yeah.
I wouldn't.
And then I would move on.
Right.
I understand what it is that you're doing there, Stugotz, but I would ask you to now go through whatever you think the public images are of people, and now tell me where it is and how it is you might be surprised. For example, were any of you surprised that Ellen DeGeneres' career on television ended the way that it did, where her whole brand is nice? It's the whole brand. It's everything that she was televising at all times. Not that television is always real, Stugotz. For example, you've heard me recently make fun of Emmanuel Acho because of how performative he is. And so he tweeted on his new show, The Facility, moments after a sad, infuriating, tear-evoking conversation on Tyreek Hill, I attempted to continue the show as if all was normal. It wasn't. I'm grateful for James Jones, who did not allow us to rush by our humanity. On The Facility, we're not doing TV, we're doing life. dude, you're doing TV more than anybody's doing
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
Like I understand.
You lead the league in television.
You're doing maximum television at all times, but Barkley says all the time, and he ain't wrong about this at all. Lord knows, Stugotz, this dude for 4 decades has figured out how to manipulate television to his every whim. And he's like, people believe television. They trust and believe that what is happening on their television is a real thing and that they know people who were on television. So none of you were surprised by Ellen, because I was. And anybody who makes it up through the teeth of comedy is going to have some elbows and teeth to be, especially a woman, to make it through that world. Like, you better have some thick skin.
I think maybe we need to clarify like our degrees of surprise, because I think there's the type of surprise where you're like, I'm surprised. And then like you go along with your day and you're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But then there's the type of surprise where you're like almost in shock because it rattles your entire world. With Ellen, I was like, I'm surprised. And then I thought about it for a while and I heard more and I was like, okay, moving on.
A shock that rattled the entire world for me was when they arrested Aaron Hernandez. We were like, wait a second, what? Like, he killed somebody? That one for me was shocking.
That was a little further.
When you talk about like people having children out of wedlock, there's a couple athletes here in Miami that have done that. And have we been surprised by that?
I will tell you that I was legitimately stunned by O.J. Simpson. The first few days before he was actually arrested.
Well, he was innocent.
Right. Yep.
The first couple of days of that, Stugotz, because his commercial appeal had been throughout to be palatable to all. Like, he was somebody who was one of the first spokesmen for commercial things in sports.
But that was murder.
So murder's the line for the show.
I'd say for me, murder's the line.
Well, for me, Ellen was the line, and that's where I was putting it on. Gave off nice on television.
What about
you guys? Not surprisingly, took it to murder.
So if Patrick Mahomes murdered someone, I would be shocked. Okay,
Is
but if
it
he
ba-
cheated on his wife, move on.
Is it bad that like I'm more surprised? Like, oh, this person's actually like nice and decent.
Yeah.
Like, that's more surprising.
Until
I think
they're
that
not.
yeah, this person's not the best.
I the thing that I'm having trouble with is just generally that this room would be so entirely cynical that I can't give you an example where you guys aren't going to say, yes, that person will fall to every temptation and will not be a higher moral guide for me in any way. That you guys are basically saying that celebrity is so corrupt a contaminant that there is no human being that you believe will not succumb to all of the contaminants around celebrity. That there is no such thing as a family person in celebrity. That's what you're saying.
I could tell you that I would be shocked if you cheated on your wife. I could. I would be shocked. I think we would all be shocked if you did that.
I wouldn't say that we're not surprised or not saying that there's not just a family person in entertainment. We're saying we know a lot of people are capable of being multi-family people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
They love families so much that they want the secret ones.
They want more.
Kirk Cousins.
Bartolo Colon had a secret family. Kirk Cousins, he's not accusing Kirk Cousins of having a
It sounds
secret
like
family.
you just accused him of having a secret
No.
family.
I'm saying the one person in celebrity and in sports who I could see being a straight down the middle guy who's just doing his thing, going to work, coming back home, Kirk Cousins.
You say that, but history is replete with the anti-homosexuality televangelist who ends up getting the gay massages on the side because what they're presenting to you isn't necessarily what they actually are.
Now you're seeing behind the curtain of the cynical nature of the room here, where you're saying anybody can do anything, and I'm surprised that Dave Grohl's got a kid out of wedlock. Come on.
Phillip Rivers would shock me if he had a secret family somewhere. That guy cannot have any more times or any more seed in him. I'm telling you.
Got a couple
There's
more
just
probably.
He
no.
does have the money for it, though, unlike a lot of people.
No, he does, but like the exhaustion that must come with that. Like, could you imagine having to have like what does he have now? Like 11 kids or something?
I think it's up to 13.
What?
And then more? Like it would be a lot. The idea of an affair, honestly, is so exhausting. Like I can't. I'd rather be castrated than have an affair.
Wow.
I just can't.
That's a
I
good
can't.
question.
I can't fathom the effort that goes into having to like lie and keep this secret. It's too much work. I just want to sleep. It's too much work.
Tony was saying during the break that he would be stunned if Billy had an affair just because he doesn't have time. He's too busy dragging the kids around. Like there's no place for him to actually hide anything.
The dog's vomiting. His wife's calling him. Are you picking up the kids? Am I picking up the kids? Where are you?
They're both sick this week. It's a whole thing. Sometimes I think like I tally up like all the coupons that I like go and I make my like 4 or 5 different stops at grocery stores at the same time. And my grocery, trip takes probably 2+ hours where I could just go to one store. And then I think to myself, if I was paying myself hourly, I would not come even close to getting even on the amount of extra time I'm spending doing all the grocery shopping to save maybe $10 or $11.
I think, Dan, the point is, it maybe is a little unfair to assume that every person is a piece of shit or is capable of being a piece of shit. But also, we all understand that humans are very complicated and make mistakes sometimes. I guess that's where I'm at.
And it's a fine place to be. I'm asking if there's any human being, celebrity brand that you guys would be willing to put in a sacred place above that. It's what I keep asking you, and the reason I keep asking it is because I don't want us to be so cynical about the powers of temptation and celebrity that we do not believe that a famous human of any kind can withstand what that immorality is. Is anyone else making the observation, incidentally, because I have not been on the internet much the last 36 hours, how impractical a car that is for Tyreek Hill to drive with that many kids? Like, it's...
You think he has 3 car seats in the back, Dan? He's not driving those kids around in that car.
I'm saying how impractical a car it is to have in general. Phillip Rivers shouldn't be driving that car if he's got 13 kids.
He has a minivan. Phillip Rivers. You don't think Tyreek has
He has a big
minivan?
van, not a minivan. He's got the extendo.
He's got like an RV, doesn't he? He's got. Wasn't he driving back and forth from San Diego to Los Angeles because it was too much of a hassle to bring the whole family with him? So his commute was 2 hours every day in like a Winnebago. Isn't that what he was doing? He was actually doing. His commute was like 2 hours a day when he was Chargers quarterback.
He would travel from San Diego to L.A., back to San Diego, and you're right, the car that he had, it's great. There's pictures of it on the internet. It had multiple televisions, so he could do film work, be prepared for the games, go over practice, the whole deal. It was like a house.
Have you seen like on Instagram where people have like this van life thing where they take a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter that's like 20 feet long and then redo it so they can live inside of it and travel the world or whatever? Frankie wants to do that, by the way. Little side note. But
our security guy.
Our security guard, yeah.
Thank you for the side note.
He told me, he's like, my dream one day is to take a Sprinter, redo it, and then I can drive around the country and live in the Sprinter.
That's only beneficial for the people in the back of the Sprinter. The person that's driving, it means nothing to them.
Yeah. Again, it's not so much like the sleeping. It's the bathroom situation. Like you're showering outside and you have to save all the water you use and reuse it and use it to flush your toilet, and then you have to empty your own septic tank of your RV. Like that part is not for me. The driving around and sleeping part, I can manage that. I do that already. But I don't want to be using a bathroom next to where I sleep and then have to empty it out myself.
I'm with you. RVs and boats have uncomfortable bathroom situations, and airplanes as well. The only thing, because I can romanticize traveling the country very peacefully, quietly, Jack Kerouac style, just enjoying different cultures, different places, different tastes, and slowing life down right up until you put me in a cramped shower. And I'm like, nope, we can speed life up, and it's totally good. I need to be clean and comfortable when I'm cleaning myself. I don't want to be in a small plastic place.
Once you join the van life, though, I feel like showers go out the window, right?
That's the problem.
You shower once a week. I feel like van life once a week is fine.
You shower when you find the lake.
Exactly right. I mean, what are you actually doing? You live in a van. It's not like you're going hiking. You're just driving around in a van, point A to point B. And when you get to point B, that's when you shower. How sweaty and smelly can you get just sitting in a van?
How different is that from like our lives with our daily commutes to work, and yet we shower every day?
Well, do we?
Put it on the
Stugotz.
poll, Juju at Le Batard Show.
Once
Once you join van life, do showers go out the window?
Yeah. If you see him on Instagram, you're like, guy hasn't showered in about a couple days. Yeah. I can tell.
Can we just go back to Dave Grohl's statement just for a second? Because the first line is, I've recently become the father of a new baby daughter born outside my marriage. Whoopsies! I've
Was that in
recently
parentheses?
I've become it's very passive voice. He's like, oops, I don't know how that happened.
Did you not assume, as I did, this is how Letterman attacked something like this? I immediately assumed that he was in danger of being outed, that this isn't information that one volunteers unless there's the threat, some sort, of it being exposed on you.
Yeah, it's very possible that was the case.
He was staying ahead of it.
Is it unfair to make that assumption? Because it's once I read it done that way, I'm like, okay, there was something happening here that was about to get more unpleasant if he's volunteering this to us.
Yeah,
I don't know whether it's
true.
I don't know whether it's fair to do that or not, though. But I've already done it, so it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Stugotz, I have told you before that basically everything that happened around O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was the first athlete I liked.
Okay.
Of any kind. I'm at the Orange Bowl. My father's taking me to my first game. We're yelling, "Squeeze the juice." It's the first athlete I'm introduced to. And then his image is sanitized in a way that Ezra Edelman documented in his Oscar-winning documentary about O.J. Simpson that reveals that everything that happened around him had stuff that was being viewed totally differently based on what your life experience was while viewing it. So O.J. Simpson's trial was something that was legitimately, for me, the first time I ever saw, wait a minute, how can everyone have the same set of facts and be viewing all of this so differently depending on what their life experience is? And it's basically become something in America that when I look at Trump now, I feel the same way. How can everyone have the same set of facts here and see this all so differently? When it comes to Tyreek Hill, this is what I'd like to explore with you, because there are many, many people over the last few years who have left my side, left our side, the show's side, Miamians, South Floridians, who are like, nope, that guy's brain is fried. He's too woke for me. He's too far to the left, when I feel like I've just been standing in the same place the whole time and everything's moved away from me. I don't think I've gotten any crazier. I think the world has gotten crazier. And when Greg Cody sits here yesterday and says Tyreek Hill was caught driving while black, that was his crime. It was a gross overreaction by the police. I thought it was a plain abuse of power. And then the reaction to that from John Steigerwald is Tyreek Hill got caught speeding while black, and he didn't put his window down while black, and he scolded the cop for tapping on his window while black, and the cops overreacted. You're busted for speeding, put the window down, and shut up. And that would be the more prudent way to not get arrested. And I'm not saying that Tyreek Hill was in any way right for the way that he began that interaction. I simply don't look at that interaction and say that the police person's job is to make it any worse when you're not actually in danger. Once he does roll down the window,
right,
everything that is after that feels unnecessary.
But I think that guy, in response to Greg, is saying that if he just put the window down, do what the cops tell you to do in that situation, and then you get to move on with your day.
But what if you don't trust the cops, though? Agreed, agreed.
I think what Tyreek Hill said is plausible, that he wanted the window up because people were taking pictures of him in his car, getting arrested, getting detained, you know?
Regardless of what the reasons for it are, Stugotz, I understand anyone who wants to defend a police officer when dark-tinted windows go up and you don't know what the person inside is doing. But once you've got him out of the car and he's no longer obvious a threat, my curiosity is, why is it that you would not view that as more than just a bit excessive? Why would you not view all of that? Surely if it was happening to you, you would think it excessive. You would not say, I would want that to be the behavior if I'm sarcastic with a cop or if I'm arrogant with a cop. I don't want it to escalate to there unless you believe it is within the police officer's rights and his job to mistreat the people that he's trying or she's trying to protect and serve.
I think most people would just put their window down and keep the window down. That's what I think most people would do.
Agreed.
Tyreek Hill did not do that.
Agreed.
He had his reasons
But
for not doing that, and
people,
they didn't realize it was Tyreek Hill at the time. So,
but you're right that I wouldn't want to be photographed being detained by police if I was on my way to the stadium and I was Tyreek Hill, and I've already caused my organizations, plural, enough headaches that I simply can't stay out of trouble. That's part of what's happening here. I understand why it is, even though they're case-by-case basis, why this makes for a very poor victim. Like, his record makes him hugely unsympathetic. Like, I actually understand how anyone would arrive at the cops are arresting a criminal there, or they're detaining a criminal, someone who's got a criminal past, like that would be their assessment. And perhaps you think that people with a criminal past don't deserve the same humanity you deserve if you're pulled over and sarcastic.
A civilian getting annoyed that they're pulled over can't be new for these cops. Like, that's the only thing that it just doesn't make sense to me here. They probably deal with a half a dozen people who are annoyed they're pulled over every day. It's like, it's your job. You're paid. You're the one here that's paid to de-escalate. You're supposed to be prepared for the civilian to be emotional about this because they're not working right now. So it's just, I don't understand the confusion about this.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so many bad faith arguments about this. Like, we all saw what happened. There's no evidence to suggest that the cops handle the situation better if he only did this. I mean, it's the same argument you hear from people who are arguing in bad faith anytime one of these body cam video gets released. And it's like, well, they should have complied. They should have complied. What evidence do you have that this situation could have gone any differently, given now knowing
if he did comply,
now knowing what you know about what these police officers did? Like, you're just giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I think the point is that we've been shown time and time again that, like, you can't automatically give them the benefit of the doubt in these situations. Like Chris said, this is what they're paid to do. This is what they should be trained to do: de-escalate and to not turn a traffic stop into an unlawful detainment of someone.
But I think some people are thinking, I agree with you, Jess, but I think some people are saying Tyreek Hill contributed to that escalation.
Yes,
he did.
On the pie chart, like,
yes.
5%, 3% of, like, yes, he didn't say immediately, oh, I'm so sorry for speeding, as most people would. And it's just a crazy, both cops all of a sudden in his window, like, oh, that's it. Get out of the car. Roll your window down or get out of the car. You know what? You're getting out of the car. Like, there was 0 seconds for him even to comply.
There's also part of this video where they're yelling at Jonnu Smith, and, like, there's different people yelling different instructions at him at the same time, and he's trying to just, like,
get in the car. Give me your license.
Right. And it's like, comply with what? Like, it's not clear what they really want anyone to do at any time. They just were screaming.
I actually do understand, Stugotz, and I think I'm going to end up having to walk something back from yesterday because I've talked to people who know more about these things than I do, and they do believe that the Miami police force is going to rally around, because the police have this community of, it's a very difficult job, and it comes with a great deal of disrespect. And the only people who know how difficult a job it is are the people who are doing it. And so they team up in us against the world when something like this happens. And I do now wonder, in a way I wasn't wondering yesterday, whether the Dolphins statement or the publicity of this will end up with anything beyond administrative leave. Once this gets pushed down the road, the lights go away, the noise goes away, you throw it to the union, the police union, and then people, police officers have killed and gone back to work. And This doesn't obviously go to that level. I do understand how the police right now in this country feel like they're under attack. That they feel that everyone's watching them and this without understanding how it is they do their job. And we're all critics when they do it poorly. And there are times when they do it poorly that they die because they're in a really dangerous job. So they have to be doing something. We're all here to be the Monday morning quarterbacks after they've done it wrong. If that tinted window goes up and then comes back down and he's shot by somebody in a car, we're not taking into account that their goal at the end of the night is to simply get home safely to their own families, and Miami can make that difficult. So I do understand once we start having these conversations about race, why it is some people end up on the side of the police officers. I just don't know how you can see what we all watched together and anyone in our audience arrive at, yes, that's how police should do their job if I were the one involved there. I just don't think that, well, maybe if I were the one, you would want police to do their job that way. If it was specifically me being pulled over. But if it were you being pulled over, I don't think anyone would say that's how. And have we all been talked to by cops that way? Because I certainly have on a number of times before I've even said anything.
Oh yeah, I've spoken to cops in a way that I'm not proud of, and yes, cops have spoken to me in a way that's demeaning. Of course, yes, for a traffic violation. So it's an interesting, did Tyreek Hill? I think the most damning thing about this whole thing, Dan, is once they realize it's Tyreek Hill, you hear one of the cops drop an F-bomb, right? Because they're like, oh, man, this is bad for us. This is going to be a bad look for us. As if they knew it was. If they knew it was Tyreek Hill, they would have treated that person differently. That's pretty bad, no?
Yes. I mean, it doesn't rise to the level of top 5 worst things about this.
No.
But yes.
But it's why I use your name all the time when I get pulled over. I mean.
But it implies we do this often and nothing comes of it. Oh, this one's going to get out.
This one, let's immediately put someone on administrative leave before an investigation or anything, because we all watched the video. Can we talk about the game? Because we've spent 3 days here without talking about anything except Jason Sanders as it relates to the game.
I do want to talk about the game, but I just want to recap something. You went to a Dolphin game with your dad and rooted for O.J. Simpson?
Yes.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, my father got the worst tickets. Nobody wanted the Bills tickets. Nobody at his office. The Bills were the worst team, and they only had one good player.
The biggest takeaway for this Dolphins game for me is that you're hearing all the reaction after the game from players talking about Tua at halftime, that it's a Tua they've never seen before, kind of along the lines of our interview with him. He just seems to be a different guy. Like, apparently Tyreek was saying that he heard his Hawaiian accent for the first time, the way he was like laying into the team, calling guys out specifically. So, I mean, it's pretty clear that Tua is a different guy. We'll see how it plays out, but he just is different.
He ended up being a different guy after halftime, too, because in the first half, he was missing throws. He was going long. He was going short. Like, he didn't look like the Tua that we had seen in the season prior. And then all of a sudden, after halftime, I think he goes 12-16, 200-some-odd yards, touchdown. Like, he looks good. So something happened there in between, because in the first half, he didn't look good whatsoever.
Well, one of the things that I would say to you makes this Dolphin period, this era, something that's more exciting than anything that has existed in the years of the 2000s. I'm not afraid of deficits.
Right.
That's super different.
Yes.
Like, that's not Dolphins get down 20-7 almost for a decade, and I'm like, there's not going to be any rallying from this.
Well, I think fair to say that fumble, the Holland punch fumble, that was the play of the game. Because if that doesn't happen, touchdown, Jaguars are up 24-7.
Yeah. Game over.
Do we believe Javon Holland when he says, I was working on that all offseason?
I do believe him.
Like, I just love it. Like, I feel like fumbles are random.
Nah, the Peanut Tillman, he punched it.
No, that was a peanut punch. That was a skilled.
I work on that at the office
punch.
sometimes.
I mean, he said he was going in, he was desperate, and that's what he works on doing in the offseason. That's what he was taught to do.
How cool is that? If he's literally working on that all offseason, the biggest play of week one,
right?
And it literally
paid off.
Works.
Yes.
Everyone works on that.
Yes, and furthermore,
I don't. Billy, I think you're the only one here.
No, ask Tony. Tony will walk around and I'll just walk by and I'll try to punch the ball out. Like, you guys don't do that. If you see a friend walking around with the ball, you don't try to just knock the ball out when you walk past him. I feel like it's normal instinct behavior.
How often
Maybe I'm just an NFL
Now that
caliber
I'm thinking
defender.
about it, he's right.
How often are your friends just like carrying footballs around? Like all
around
the time?
his office all the time, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But if there is a friend carrying a ball around, you always try to knock it out.
Always.
I can tell you, when you ask me how often are they walking around carrying a ball around me, not for long.
Put it on the poll. My brother loved to do that. It was one of his favorite comedic devices, but not with balls, with plates of food. He would just
not as funny.
Classic.
Funnier, yeah.
Did he clean it up at least? Or?
No.
Okay, well.
Wait, so he'd like smack a plate of food out of your hand?
Yes.
Or like a beverage?
That's good humor.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
He would also slap those out of my hand. I often had good humor ice cream in my hands.
That's just looking out for you, yeah.
A couple of things on all of this that we're talking about. One, it's legitimately funny to think of football as already the kind of violent that it is. And if you're not working on punching the ball out all offseason, you might be slightly less accurate than hitting the ball. So now we've just gotten to the place where people are actively punching each other in football, just straight up punches, because that's what we're doing now in football. And as it relates to the real confidence that Tua has now, Stugotz, I would say, Jess, 24/7, I'm not eliminating the Dolphins anymore from the ability to come back from 24/7. I understand why anyone would view that as a game-changing play. It was, but I've seen enough from this offense's ability. It's a rare thing, Stugotz. When Tom Brady is telling you again and again, and people are making fun of him, 10 yards is really hard to get and 20 yards is really hard to get. The Dolphins have the rarest of things. They've got a guy who can go 80. Like, they've got a guy who can eliminate your mistakes by being that.
They have two guys.
They've got one guy who everyone in the league knows can go 80, and then they have other guys that can also do it. It's just not something I've seen from this offense before, and it makes me understand why their quarterback would be that kind of confident.
What makes Tyreek so special and so fun to watch is he could take your 10-yard pass and make it an 80-yard touchdown. It doesn't have to be an 80-yard pass. He can take any pass and turn that thing into a touchdown, and Waddle did it too in that game. They're great. I mean, they're fun to watch, and this game tomorrow is a big game. I know it's week 2, Dan, but this is a big game. You have to win. If you want this division, you have to win your home game against Buffalo.
It's an early must-win.
Yeah, it is.
For both teams, possibly.
Yeah. Wow.
Division could come down to one game, and this could be that game.
Oh, my God. That's a big one, man.
I'm going to put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Has there ever been a Game 2 must-win for both teams game in the history of games? Because no is the answer to that.
Not yet.
I mean,
until tomorrow. Ask that same question Friday, and you'll see very different results probably.
I mean, if we're doing predictions for tomorrow's game, and we just have to do this.
Oh, wow. Early.
That's right. It's time for Against the Spread. And it's brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. Stay tuned because you're going to hear about all that DraftKings has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Jess, what do you got?
I've got Bills at the Dolphins. It's a 2.5-point spread right now for the home team, for the Dolphins.
Who are you going with?
I'm going with the Dolphins.
Let's go.
Short week. They got to play at home last weekend.
Wow.
I think the offense got things going in the second, specifically the fourth quarter. I got end of the third, beginning of the fourth. I think that they're going to win this one.
Against
the spread.
Billy, do you have any commentary on Josh Allen's face before this game?
On his face?
Yes.
Why would I have
his
such a comment?
His stupid face? Is his face going to look stupid? What do you...
He buried the hatchet, man.
I think he's due for an arm punt in this game.
Really?
A couple. I don't think he got them all out of his system.
Okay.
Tony, what do you got?
I'm going opposite of Jess here. I think it's a trap game for the Dolphins.
wow.
Small line. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to come in, run the ball like they did against the Cardinals, and win outright. But I'm going to get them against the spread plus 2.5.
Billy, break our tie.
I love this. 1 Bills, 1 Dolphins. I am going to go with the Buccaneers plus 7 in Detroit.
I love that. I really do.
I feel
Great
like
line.
that line is crazy big in favor of the Lions. The Lions won, as we all know, 26-20 against the Rams, but it took them to get to overtime to do it, and they gave up a lot of yards. They gave up 387 yards of total offense, 304 passing yards to the Rams. The Buccaneers, as we know, have Baker Mayfield, who may or may not have been the MVP of Week 1 and may be leading the MVP race right now, Dan.
Sam Darnold
They
was.
beat the Commanders commandingly, 37-20 this past week, and Baker had 289 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. And they had 392 total offensive yards. That's a lot of yards, and the Lions just gave up a lot of yards. I don't think that the Lions are going to win by 7, and that's against the spread.
That's
spread.
Unbelievable research. I mean, oh my God.
I was kind of hoping, though, that because we were talking about the Bills,
cursed.
because he is named Billy, I thought we
My
would
fantasy
get-
team was once known the Buffalo Billies. Did you know that?
Oh, wow, what a name. game.
Why
That's
would I
kinda cute.
want to know that?
It's a fun fact.
IES or YS?
No, YS.
Fun fact about Sam Darnold, according to Computer Cowboy, Ben Baldwin on Twitter, his adjusted EPA was the highest in the NFL last year, which is adjusted for pass protection, receiver drops, dropped interceptions, luck on interceptable passes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you can say with confidence he was the Week 1 MVP.
Sam Darnold?
I kind of agree this is a trap game.
I kind of do too, but I wanted to pick the Dolphins.
Against the spread.
But why do you think it's a trap game?
It's a classic trap. All the groundwork is there.
Why isn't it a trap for both teams?
No, there's no such thing as a double trap week 2. That's crazy talk.
It's at night, so they don't have the sun advantage either.
That's a great point by Jessica.
I'm taking Buffalo.
It's still going to be unbelievably swampy hot, though.
Yeah, but not for the whole game.
Yeah. They should bring in some heaters.
It will be swampy hot for the entire game, I promise you.
I'll bring the heaters.
How is this a trap game for the Dolphins?
I don't understand how it's a trap game for anybody.
Their next 2 games are against worse or less teams.
They're both very good teams. I don't understand why it's a trap game.
It's Thursday, that's
It's
why.
not a trap
It's a
game.
let your guard down game.
It's a Thursday game. It's not a let your guard down game.
Oh, his guard is down,
It's
trust
a
me.
division rival. How
They
can it be a let
both
your
know
guard
how
down game?
good the other team
No,
is.
literally their biggest rival. Because they're thinking this is week 2. We can take our foot off the pedal right now.
Who is thinking that? The Bills or the Dolphins?
I think the Bills.
I think the Dolphins.
Oh, wow.
What about the Bucks?
Well, the Bucks we know are going to keep the foot on the gas.
Nobody cares about the Bucks.
That's not true, Dan. Buck you.
Baker Mayfield was 5th in adjusted EPA.
Did you see Bucky Irving? The hell is adjusted EPA? My wife drafted Bucky Irving. I couldn't believe it. I was like, who the hell is that?
He had a really good game.
What a game, Bucky Irving. On the Bucks, perfect fit.
Exactly right.
Well, the perfect marriage.
It's also the Environmental Protection Agency.
Imagine if the Dolphins picked some guy named Dolphy. Everyone would love him. I will not imagine that.
Buffalo Billies.
I still don't
It's a good team
understand
name.
why it's a
It's a
trap
good
game.
team name.
It's a terrible.
It's a really good team.
It's not a trap game. No, it's a trap game. I'll tell you why.
My logo is a
why.
buffalo head.
They play the Seahawks.
They're both no, they're good.
No, they don't.
You're
not listening. Stop talking so
There's
loud.
another opponent.
They play the Bills again early.
No,
These are the 2 best opponents in the division.
no. People still are high on the Jets.
Literally, they play the Bills this week. Literally, they play
Opposite of
the
the
Seahawks, then the Titans, Patriots, Colts, Cardinals, all winnable games. Then they play the Bills again. Oh wow! So it's easy game, hard game, hard game. They get this one. They get them early this year. Twice in Buffalo early though.
Yeah. This could be that classic Greg Maddux type game where one team lets the other team win, so they get overconfident, and then the next matchup in Buffalo, they think this is gonna work, and then boom, it does not work. Trap.
I feel like the Patriots is actually the trap game.
This might be a lay the trap game for the trap game.
That's not a trap game. That's a bait and switch game.
This
That's
is a
different
lay the
thing.
trap game.
That's a different thing. That's the old switcheroo. It's not a trap game. It's not a trap game.
Shh. Keep your voice. It's a library.
Jacoby Brissett.
Can anyone hear this?
That guy can win you a playoff game. Push game to shove.
Why did you bring up Jacoby Brissett?
Just because.
Yeah. It's a good point.
We don't know. Could
He
be Drake
cried.
Macy's.
He played good. And
Jacoby Brissett wasn't even thinking about Jacoby Brissett there. Why are you thinking about Jacoby Brissett?
It had to be said.
It didn't have to be said.
Some people are saying it had to be said.
There's a lot of winnable games on this Dolphins schedule, by the way.
We're forgetting the Mike White factor.
Oh yeah.
What's the Mike White factor?
He was signed by Buffalo to their practice squad. Chris, he should hold him out. He has their playbook.
Knows all the plays.
The Bills are gonna know what's coming.
No, he's a double
because
agent.
of Mike White.
He's
Oh, a double agent game.
He's actually lying about the calls to the Bills so that he can help the Dolphins
He
win.
signs with the Bills, gives them fake plays. He then proves to be useless. They fire him. Then he comes back to the Dolphins with the Bills plays. There's Mike White.
Next level.
Genius. He hasn't been disavowed. It was a faux disavowal.
He's our hometown kid.
Just like Ethan Hunt. Big game for Jason Sanders. Oh, no doubt.
If that guy misses a kick, if that guy even hits the crossbar, he needs to be cut immediately. Sorry. He needs to be cut immediately. If he even looks at that crossbar.
On the team.
Nothing but net.
How is
The
he
back
not
of the
supposed
net.
to look at the crossbar when he lines up his
That's for him to figure out on me. He's had ample opportunities to not be missing kicks.
He hit a game winner.
He
also
created
missed
his
one.
own game winner.
The Bills are never looking past the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are never looking past the Bills.
Not a trap game.
Dolphins are
not a
looking
trap
past the
game
Bills.
Might be a setup game, though.
Dolphins are looking past the Bills. Just be careful.
I don't remember why we're whispering.
Because they're listening.
The Dolphins are one punch away from owning.
Shh. Stop laughing.
They are one punch from being 0-1. They are. But I believe in them to come back when they're down, if they haven't been trapped by thinking that the Bills aren't any good, even though the Bills have won the division.
Not a trap game. Not a trap. Lay the trap game.
Trap D's.
What's the difference between
don't get it.
I don't get it.
You
I
don't-
clearly.
You don't get it.
You know what? I changed my mind. It's a trap game.
See, I told you.
Thank
you. I told you. Thank you.
No.
Wait, so who do we have winning?
I don't remember.
The Bills.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yes, the real winner. Had to be
Obviously,
said.
that's the real trap game too.
My life as I know it is about to drastically change forever. And the reason I say that, as many of you know, I'm going to be a father coming up in December to a baby girl, and it's crazy, and I can't believe it. And a lot of my life is going to change, but there's one thing in my life that's going to be constant. And since 1975, this original light beer has been a constant, a mainstay for the entire planet. And it's going to continue to be a mainstay for me. It's Miller Lite. They keep it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. It's a light beer that actually tastes like beer. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling, and it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. I will when my daughter's born with a tall, cold glass of Miller Lite. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
This interview with Trey Wingo is presented by LinkedIn Jobs.
Yes, Trey Wingo.
Yeah.
Last seen walking around behind Stugotz, the fringes of Kansas City through the parking lot. Stugotz took a photograph in front of a bunch of porta potties, and then soon thereafter, Trey Wingo was in the middle of all things football. Let's welcome him in the way that Stugotz would most like, by doing a top 5 list of places that Belichick is most likely to end up after week 1.
Right. This could change, but this is just after week 1.
That's right. After
Yes.
week 1, we're
Yes.
going to want to update this every week. So number 5, Stugotz.
Notre Dame.
Wow. All right. Good start to the list. Number 4.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
Number 3.
Dan, the Bengals could be 0-2 after this week. They play the Chiefs. Number 3, New York Giants.
Don't they always beat the Chiefs? It seems like they can always beat the Chiefs. Number 2.
You're right. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Number 1.
The Jets. I'm telling you right now, if I'm Woody Johnson, I call Belichick. I see if he's interested. If he is, I fire Saleh today. I hire Bill Belichick. That's just me.
All right. He's the host of the new DraftKings Network show, Pregame Power Up. It's kicking off every Monday and Thursday night from 6 to 7 p.m. on the DraftKings Network. If you did not notice yesterday, this is what actually happened with Stugotz. He offered to us, if he loses against Tennessee, Saleh should be fired. We had no reaction to that. Then he updated it to, he should be fired right now. Then he updated to, he should have been fired yesterday.
Yeah.
And he'll keep going until he gets the reaction that he wants. But let's start here
my point.
with Trey Wingo. Thank you for being on with us. A, what did you make of Stugotz's list? And B, how much trouble is Saleh actually in New York if that doesn't work quickly?
It has to work quickly or everybody's in trouble. I mean, let's just be honest about that. I love the list, Stugotz. I would say the Giants is probably most likely in that scenario because that's where he cut his teeth. And
Yep.
obviously that's where he, his game plan against the Bills, defensive game plan, Super Bowl 25 is still a masterpiece. He basically told the defense, we're going to let Thurman Thomas run for as many yards as he wants to, but we're going to knock the crap out of those receivers every chance we get. And that's how they got that 20-19 win over the Bills when Norwood missed wide right. So also, I just think it's very important for me, and I appreciate you guys keeping me forever for your audience, me and Porta Potties together, because I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good way for me to be remembered on this show always.
How many people refer to you as Hal?
Not many, actually. Stu, obviously all the time,
Yep.
and you occasionally. But yeah, every once in a while I'll get a Hal, but mostly it's just Trey.
Trey is a great upgrade from Hal. I mean, it really is.
I yes, blessed. To me, Well, now looking at me now, this is going to sound funny, but when I was growing up, like Hal is such an old man's name. Maybe I should change it now. I don't know, but yeah,
Back to Hal?
I like, yeah, back to Hal. Hey, Hal's here. Get your kids off my lawn.
Juju, put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are we still making Hals? Your belief, Trey, is that if I were to say to you, the best team in football the last 5 years has been the San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs just have a better quarterback. You agree with that or don't agree with that?
Well, I would say here's the way I would answer that question. I think, yes, the 49ers roster top to bottom has been the best for a long time. If you go 1 through 53, it'd be hard to find a team that you would like more than 1 through 53. But to your point, and this is not a slight in any way to Brock Purdy, 15 is 15. That dude is freaking magic. Like the coldest thing I've ever heard is what he did last year before the final game of the regular season, where they beat the Chargers and he didn't play. And it was his worst season ever in terms of wins and yards per attempt and all this kind of stuff. And the receivers were terrible and they dropped all these passes and all this junk. He texted his family and said, I've decided we're going to win the Super Bowl. Not that we're going, or I think we have a chance to win, or we're going to do it. I've decided we are going to win the Super Bowl. And they had one touchdown drive in that Super Bowl. And what was it? In overtime, when they needed a touchdown to win the frickin' game. He runs forward on 4th and 1. Marquez Valdes-Scantling goes backwards for 8 yards. He erases that in 2 more plays, runs for another first down, hits Travis Kelce for a first down, then hits Mecole Hardman for the game winner. Dude is the coldest MFer I've ever seen. So, yeah, I would agree with your assessment. He's just the difference maker of all difference makers.
What is your takeaway on Ja'Marr Chase sitting out all offseason, being unhappy with his money? And you can have Joe Burrow, but the Bengals have been a cheap franchise for as long as I've been alive, Trey. They run their place like a business in a way that suggests they don't actually have money. So how bad a problem do they have with Ja'Marr Chase there?
Well, I think it's going to get ugly quickly if they fall to Kansas City at a game. That game's at Arrowhead. And I agree with you, Dan. Like, this has been sort of a new era of Cincinnati, right? When Zach Taylor got there and they drafted Burrow and they got Chase. Wow, the Bengals are doing the right things. Everything's great. And then Ja'Marr holds out. And then, Mike Brown, who is the oldest of old school owners, said, well, now that the season's here, or, we're practicing, we're really not going to negotiate. And I talked to somebody that I trust. And I said, what is your feeling on what's going on in Cincinnati this summer? He said, the vibe is not good. And then you go and look what happened. I mean, there's the Patriots, kudos to Gerard Mayo and what they did. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you can't have that team walk into your building and win week 1. You're the Bengals. You're the team, like you said, that routinely finds a way to beat the Chiefs in the regular season. And the only active quarterback to beat him in the postseason right now in the NFL is Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. So, yeah, there are things in Cincinnati that just aren't sitting well right now.
The Dallas-Cleveland game, your thoughts? There weren't a lot of games that this weekend where I knew 2 good teams were playing. And Cleveland is a good team, but has the biggest quarterback problem in the entire league, I would say.
Yes.
So your thoughts off of Dallas and Cleveland?
Well, it's interesting, right? And the first thing I thought of, especially after the first half on the Cowboys, I think we're up 20-3, is like, wow, one quarterback is playing like he earned the contract in Dak Prescott, and the other quarterback is playing like he never should have been given that contract in Deshaun Watson. And, you'll hear Browns fans say, well, the offensive line was bad. The Cowboys defense is really good. And all of those things are true. But this is not a one-off for Deshaun Watson. Like, let's be honest about who he's been ever since he's been a Cleveland Brown. Ever since he got off that 11-game suspension a couple of years ago, he has not come close to being the Deshaun Watson that he was for the Houston Texans when he was putting up really big numbers and they were doing really, really good things together. There is a huge problem because his cap hit for the next 2 years, Dan, no matter what they do, if they cut him, they bench him, his cap hit for the next 2 seasons is $72 million. $72 million. There's no way around it. $72 million. And he had, this is a sort of a little deep dive into football nerdness here, but he was 0 of 10 on Sunday against the Cowboys on throws of 15 yards or more down the field. A friend of mine who used to work with me at ESPN named Doug Kloss, a great researcher. That's the worst percentage ever since they started keeping the statistic of air yards down the field in 2006. No one had ever been worse at those kind of throws. So this is a problem for the Browns. They made it to the playoffs with Joe Flacco last year, and Deshaun Watson is not getting it done right now, and they have to seriously think about playing Jameis Winston.
The funny thing is, Trey, I think you've been hanging out with Stugotz a little bit too much. You've got the Stugotz personal collection going on, like the hoodie with the hat. As you can see, Stugotz is, I think, wearing that right now.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit too much
hoodie, yeah.
too much of you guys.
Well, I always just say, wherever I see Stugotz, I feel like he's on the end of a 4-day bender somewhere. So this is my homage.
Yeah.
This is my homage
Only
to Stugotz right here.
Let's go up. I want to cover a couple of your viral tweets here. The Bear. I want to ask you about this because the Bear wasn't on your deck. There was a great controversy around this tweet, so I'd just like a formal explanation before playing the looks like game with you. What happened here? What can you tell us about for clarity?
Oh yeah, so this bear was on, not this bear, but a bear was on my porch, and I've shown Stugotz the bears that before on my phone that are on what used to be on my patio all the time. So this bear was on our porch. Was it 2018, 2019, 2020? I can't remember when it was. Anyway, and I couldn't get the camera out, and this was at like midnight or 10 o'clock at night because we were up watching something. So I put up. So a bear just walked up onto our back porch. I never said it was that bear, and I thought that was clear because I posted it at midnight, and it was a daytime photo. So
is that bear wearing shoes? Is that bear?
That's a giveaway.
Is that bear wearing shoes?
It looks like it.
All right, fine. Okay, so let me see the steak here that Trey Wingo put up because I'd like to also get some analysis on what's happening here and what kind of commentary you got when you put this steak up.
Yeah, actually, that was from 2 days before the bear thing. That was at Ruth's Chris in Indianapolis. We were there for the combine, and I thought it was a really good-looking piece of meat, and I was very happy about my meal. And people went absolutely crazy. I think it looks a little darker than it actually was because of mood lighting in a fine dining establishment like Ruth's Chris. But it is kind of funny to me that steak photo got as many reactions as it did.
You didn't know that you were. You thought you were putting something out there that would be something that everyone would think is delicious, and instead they just judged you.
Overcooked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then 2 years ago in Vegas, this guy came out. I can't remember his name. This is gonna sound terrible. He's Bum Chillips on Twitter.
Hall.
He's like,
yeah.
He's like, hey, that was me that did that. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool. He felt some sort of need to apologize for what he had done, and I was like, I really didn't really affect me in any way, shape, or form, but I appreciate you saying that.
To be fair, I mean, he did say that you ordered the earth and turf, and that the steak was made Pompeii style, and that it looked like Don Draper's lungs, and Smokey the Bear was just off camera with his head in his hands.
Yeah. Again, those are good lines. It didn't affect me in any way. I'm happy. I'm happy it made him happy.
I never understood why people who because my dad's like this. He wants his steak bloody, okay? He wants it to be rare. I want medium well. And the people who get it undercooked hate the people who get it overcooked. Hey, it's my steak. I mean,
yeah. It is a line of demarcation in this country. People will freak out if you don't order your steak rare or medium rare at best. I like it like you, Stugotz. I like it a little more well done.
Called him steak.
No, call me stink. I think. I mean,
stink, steak, Stugotz. It's all the ST thing that's going through my head right now.
At Le Batard Show, how do you like your steak? Medium well or medium rare?
Try the earth and turf.
I will tell you again, Trey Wingo, pregame power
Beef
up
Cinderloin.
is 6 to 7 p.m. on the DraftKings Network. Before you get out of here, Trey, I want you to pick from among these 10 or so looks like from our look likes game and tell us which you like best. Trey Wingo looks like a bird of prey. Trey Wingo looks like a statue that comes to life and speaks in a movie. Trey Wingo looks like the red-faced soccer dad who charges the ref after a loss only to flop on the ground like a fish when accidentally being bumped by a 6-year-old. Trey Wingo looks like the guy who, when you first meet him, asks what your name is, then repeats it 3 times correctly, then says, I got it, and says it again incorrectly.
That has actually happened more than once.
Trey Wingo sounds like a 3-count chicken wing appetizer dish at a Mexican restaurant run by white people.
Yeah, there is a place in Georgetown called Wingo's that does sell wings, so there you go.
Trey Wingo looks like the guy who, while at his daughter's graduation party, sneaks all the other male guests to his garage to show off his 1978 Pontiac.
Actually, it's a 67 Mustang, but that's a separate discussion.
Trey Wingo looks like the public defender who has to keep looking at his court papers to remember his client's name.
Well, there's so many of them, and we don't get paid a lot. So, it's shooting by volume is how you do it as a public defender.
Nice seeing you again, Trey. Again, pregame power up. I urge you to watch what he's doing. His football knowledge is unparalleled. Every Monday, Thursday night from 6 to 7 p.m. on the DraftKings Network. Thank you, Trey.
You got it, guys. Anytime.
Thank you, Hal.
We've been talking behind the scenes here, and we haven't gotten to it yet in the month, Stugotz, that we've been talking about it. Our most historic game, baseball, where the numbers still really matter. What was that sound?
I don't know if they matter as much as they used to. I mean, the steroid guys kind of ruined the numbers, right?
Agreed, but they still do matter. They matter less than they used to, but the White Sox are on the cusp of doing something really historic in that they are the worst team I've ever seen. And the record for being the worst team you've ever seen is held by the expansion 1962 Mets that lost 120 games. And the White Sox are on pace to be worse than them. Every time I look up, they're losing 5-0. Like, it's an always thing. Their slugging percentage offensively as a team is Zach Greinke's slugging percentage.
Crazy.
The pitcher, Zach Greinke, the way that he hits, that's what the White Sox do as an offense. And we were talking about, should we do this the way that the 1972 Dolphins every year, when all the undefeated teams in football are gone, the 72 Dolphins get together and toast champagne? We were actually looking for 1962 Mets.
Oh, really?
To see if they would want to celebrate with us, a bunch of old guys, at a team being worse than they are.
They don't want a team to be worse than they are, do they? I mean,
I think
it's a distinction. They're the worst team in the history of baseball. They're about to lose that. No one's going to remember that.
Well, I'm not sure how alive any of the 1962 Mets are to celebrate some of this with us so that we can ask them whether they would enjoy it or not. But can I have some imaging? Can you just put together real quick, Chris, some imaging that would allow me to celebrate the putrid Chicago White Sox?
Dan, the White Sox are really bad.
White Sox, go, White Sox. Let's go, White Sox.
Back to you, Dan.
All right, excellent work, Chris, as always. A couple of White Sox stats for you, Stugotz. Every team in the AL Central is above 500. The division, though, is 43 games under 500. So every other team in the AL Central is above 500. It's a good division, except for the White Sox, who bring the division down to 43 games under 500. In the second half of the season, they are 6-44.
Oh boy.
Jesus.
My God.
Yeah, it's unfathomable. Since July 10th, okay? That's 2 months ago. The Bears have won as many games in Chicago as the White Sox. That's impossible.
Yeah. I'm searching for a 62 Met who is still alive.
I was on the same beat. There's only one guy who was born after 1940 on the roster.
If they are still alive, though, they should go out for those Trey Wingo steaks to celebrate being the worst team every year.
What's that poll going to come back? Do more people like their steaks medium rare than medium well?
It'll come back in favor of medium rare because the people who do medium well they're too ashamed and they'll vote for medium rare.
What about medium rare plus? What do we do with those people?
What is a plus? What do you mean?
It's like an extra degree.
Yeah.
Stugotz is so right, though, about the judginess.
Right.
Because us medium well people, I'll be with Stugotz. I like a good medium well sometimes.
Yes.
I'm mainly medium, but sometimes medium well. And I don't judge you medium rare people.
I
medium rare
judge
people,
you.
leave us alone.
No, but if you order it rare, I'm fine with it. It's your steak. You're eating it. I'm not splitting it with you.
You order your steak how you want, and I'll order mine how I want.
You order your steak how I want, because I'm going to eat some of your steak when I'm done with my steak.
That's true. I don't finish my steak a lot.
But I love a porterhouse for two. There is nothing better than a porterhouse sliced up for two, and I can't get it with my dad. I can't do it. He wants rare. I want medium well. We can't do it.
You can't split a steak, but what you can do is try it Pittsburgh style, which is they char the outside, but the inside is rare.
Yes.
You think the porterhouse is the best steak?
Too fatty for me.
I do.
You think it's the best steak?
You get filet on one side, you get strip on the other side, you take that bone home, you give it to the dog. It is wonderful.
Give it to the dog.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
There aren't any meat left on that bone when I'm done with it. It's my bone.
Put it on the poll.
You like the ribeye, huh?
At Le Batard Show.
Tomahawk?
I mean, filet mignon, I think, is supposed to. I've just not
You
heard.
get that on the porterhouse.
I have not heard a lot of people say the porterhouse is the. Yeah, but I'd like it to all be filet.
Oh, I see. You don't like the strip. That's
I'm
the
with Dan.
problem. Right.
Give me the lean stuff.
Oh, I'm a strip guy. The
Right.
nice little fat on the top.
I like a good palomilla.
That's what, Dan, next time you and I go out for steak, I will get a porterhouse for two. You can have the filet side. I will gladly take the strip side. You're probably thinking, why don't you just order a strip?
I'd just like to put it out to the audience at Le Batard Show. Is porterhouse the best of the steaks? And I'd like to see whether or not you're going to get agreement on that. You just said medium well, which while I don't want to judge you, I will say that anyone who does order medium well, probably not a steak aficionado. Like, that's not somebody
Really?
who, I
There's
think.
a certain way you have to order to be a steak expert?
What I would say to you is
Really?
this.
I didn't know this.
Most people I know who fancy themselves real steak eaters, they want it rarer the better. Like, that's what they want. I'm not one of them. I'm not somebody who I like mine a little more charred.
Most people who fancy themselves steak eaters need to get an identity.
Put it on
My
the
whole
poll.
identity is I eat steak. Okay, good for you.
I know how to eat it.
Exactly right. Congrats.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do most people who identify as steak eaters need to get a new identity? I think, Billy, that there are many people in our audience who are allowed to be both steak eaters and have other portions of their identity. I think you are allowed
I wasn't
to
talking about those people.
identify.
You brought them into this, not me. I love those people.
But the steak portion is the most important part of their identity.
I don't believe
they take it very seriously.
I don't believe there are anybody. I don't believe anyone listening to this would identify first and foremost as a steak
no,
eater.
it's. I mean, come on, it's a thing, right?
Yeah,
and
I
same
mean-
people with the wine. They go. How about just down the hatch, enjoy it, and let's move on with the rest of our lives.
To be fair, Dan, you didn't meet any of the fine people at the Key West Invitational Fishing, Lobster, and Barbecue Contest.
Pros.
Those are
Yeah.
steak people.
Yeah.
I think
Meat
there are more wine people than there are steak people
Oh,
who
I can't stand
identify
those people
first
either.
and foremost as a
I thought you were a
wine
LeBron
person.
guy.
It all tastes
Alcoholics.
the same. I mean, give me a break. They're grapes, crushed. I mean, Jesus. I can't stand wine people, Dan. I mean, seriously. Like, they know the difference between,
They do.
They don't.
Oh, this tastes like leather. Like, what are you eating leather for? Like, what are we doing here?
Baseball
leather.
They sift it around in their glass. Just drink the wine for
Aren't
crying out
all
loud.
blank
Peppery.
people annoying? Like, if you're so
Whoa.
into something that we call you blank
Whoa.
people.
Not all people.
Like it's like
Not Le Batard
motorcycle
Show people.
guy or
Go on.
music guy.
Whoa.
Like any people that are
Whoa.
just too into something, you're annoying.
Whoa.
Be
Except if
careful.
you're really
What
into
am I-
our show, and then you're
I'm
great. and we
perfectly
love
careful
you.
right now. I feel really
You're
safe where
fine.
I'm at.
When you're too into something that's not very important. Fair?
just
That's what you're saying.
Coffee guy.
Yeah, right.
Coffee
You're
people.
You're saying steak's not important?
Coffee is very
No,
important.
steak is important. Coffee is important. It's not important enough to be an expert on
Hey,
it.
video game
Right.
guy. No one gives a what your chair is, okay? Just saying. It doesn't matter.
Whoa.
All these things, if you're too into something, you're annoying.
Fantasy football guy.
Fantasy Gino, super annoying.
Yeah.
All he talks
Buffalo
about.
Stugotz, you're ignorant. I am not a wine person,
thank
okay? But your ignorance on dismissing wine people as not knowing the differences between wines because you don't know the differences
Who cares?
between wines.
Put it in a glass, I'll drink it.
Exactly.
I mean,
Down
geez.
the hatch. I said it once. I'll say it again. Whoop.
You need
That's
a glass?
Right.
Snob.
Well,
I'll drink it out of the
Plastic
bottle.
cup.
Yeah. Oh, Manischewitz.
But you waving around your ignorance in the face of the wine people who would look at you and say, hey, football guy,
They're
you
making
care a
that
little
up,
too
though.
much about football. You get a little too much of your identity around football.
Football guys
football
are good.
matters.
Yeah, football guys are fine.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Exactly
the one
right.
group.
Wine people are making it up, right? Like we can agree on that. Like when you
cannot
go
agree
and
on
you're
that.
like, oh, what is it? Like, well, what essence do you take? Just tell me what's in it. Like it's a
Right.
fact. What is in it? Tell me. Like, well, what note do you find? It's like just tell me what's in this wine.
Right.
It's not up to me. I'm asking you the question. Just they don't know. They don't know what's in there.
It's like Art Guy who sees something that no one else sees.
Oh, my gosh.
Art guy.
Oh, God.
Get me that 3D art that you just stare at, you cross your eyes, and then boom, 3D image right in the middle of it. You know what I mean? That's the only art we need.
Since
That
the
and Where's Waldo? That was fun. Where's Waldo?
Bingo.
start of the Major League season on March 28th, the White Sox have 10 more wins than the Boston Celtics.
What?
10. They last won back-to-back games June 27th through June 29th. The things that have happened since then, the Panthers, Florida Panthers, had a parade. The Olympics and Paralympics took place in Paris. The new NCAA video game was released.
How about baseball people? Just shut up.
Just shut up already, baseball guy.
Bill James. The numbers mean something.
The 1962 Mets.
Speaking of the 1962 Mets, Craig Anderson and Jay Hook are both the only surviving members
get
of the
them.
1962 Mets.
Really?
Let's get them. I'm sure they know how to work a Zoom.
Hey, what's up, Stugotz?
Oh, football.
I know you're not sitting in on a pseudo-political discussion. This is not the Stugotz I know.
No, I mean, I thought we were talking Lions. That's what I thought. I mean,
Okay. Well, somehow bring it back to the 49ers run game. We'll be fine.
I will.
Okay, rest assured he will. Jemele Hill is a Meadowlark advisor, and we're always happy to have her around here. We're going to get to some things with her in a second. I will tell everybody that Generation CFB is coming up in moments here. Jessica and Lucy will do a better job of handling college football than we have throughout this week.
Yeah, and have no fear. We talked a lot of Maction. We talked a lot of maybe some big losses in the Big Ten this week.
Wow.
So stay tuned for all of our hot takes from this last weekend.
It is coming up in moments. Also, Stugotz, I saw this. ESPN sent out its press releases on all the great numbers that football did. The Manning cast was not included, though, because the Manning cast had worse numbers than it's ever had,
Wow.
even though Bill Belichick is a part of what it is that they're doing now. It's still 827,000 people as a secondary viewing experience, but it was not a part of the ESPN press release conspicuously. Florio's pointing that out, and now we have our reason for why. Jemele, the Dolphins were the center of everything this weekend because you don't often get Schefflered on the way to the stadium. A lot of people are talking now as they take sides about all the things Tyreek Hill did wrong at the beginning of that interaction. And I'm just sad, I guess, more than anything, that a group of people can see the same thing there and just immediately take sides as if it doesn't matter that we all have different life experiences and somebody was clearly wronged there, and it doesn't feel like it was necessarily the police officers.
This is how the conversation always goes when we bring up these kind of incidents, police brutality, state-sanctioned violence, is that because we have been conditioned so long in this country to believe that Black bodies, frankly, are not worth as much as anybody else's body, and that they deserve to be dehumanized. And that generally speaking, when it comes to interacting with the police, is that if Black people are not overly deferential to the position of authority, then we deserve whatever we get. Now, my thing is this, is that it is not a crime to have an attitude with a police officer because you get pulled over for speeding. A lot of us have an attitude when we get pulled over by the police, particularly if you're in Tyreek Hill's case, when you're on your way to your job and you risk maybe running late. And so we seem to think that in those situations, at least when it comes to Black people, because I've seen white people act a fool on the police and they have managed to keep themselves perfectly restrained and act perfectly professional. But when it comes to us, all of the humanity always goes out the window. And that is the unfortunate part sometimes about being Black in America, is that our humanity is always conditional.
You wrote on Twitter yesterday of this debate around Tyreek. There are some parallels between how this issue is discussed and how we discuss women and sexual assault. What do you mean by that?
So when you think about the conversations we often have about sexual assault, the majority of the conversation is centered on how women need to protect themselves from being raped or sexually assaulted. The burden of responsibility falls on us in terms of what we wear, what we look like, where we are, how much we drink. Everything is about us. And at some point, I would love to see that conversation shift to actual perpetrators, actual predators, considering that most women are sexually assaulted by someone they know. So I often say this, it tends to bother a lot of men folk when I do. Instead of teaching women how not to be raped, we need to start teaching boys and men and predators not to rape people. Being drunk is not an excuse that should mean you're sexually violated, because people are around people who are drunk all the time, but the only one who are in danger of being sexually violated tends to be women. So is that the fault of women? Or is that the fault of the people who think that it's okay to sexually violate somebody based off how much they were drinking? And so I find these conversations to be very similar when it comes to this particular issue, is that then the focus is not about how police officers are actually the paid professional ones in this interaction. They are paid to interact with the public. They are paid to protect and serve, but all the conversation is about the behavior of the Black people and their interaction with police. We have seen Black people get their head blown off when complying with the police. We just saw a national incident recently with Sonya Massey. In her own home, she was murdered by the police. And the first thing she said to them when they came to her house is, "Please don't kill me." And that's exactly what wound up happening. And so we have seen Black people comply. We have seen them, quote, not comply or not be the most respectful with the police, and the outcome has been the same. So instead of spending all this energy talk about what Black people need to do to better interactions with the police, we need to spend more time talking about why the police have this inherent seeming fear of Black people, to the point that all ration and all humanity goes out the window when they're dealing with us.
You're talking about victim blaming there, and Tyreek Hill, understandably, in a lot of other instances, makes for a very bad victim. When the messaging yesterday is the following, Jemele, and I don't know that these two things can coexist. Drew Rosenhaus came on here and said that Tyreek was very interested in making this something that is a moment of unity in reaching out to the police, but then also both he and his agent called for the firing of police. And if they wanted to actually de-escalate all of it, Tyreek Hill could by saying, "I'm not going to do any more with this. I'm going to stand down." You can't have those as the two messages, though. It can't be that he wants to have this simmer down and also call for the firing of the police, which he's entitled to do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not here to call for anybody's job. I'll let the municipalities in Miami-Dade handle that. But I will say this, is that you can't have unity without accountability. And often what is missing in these equations is the accountability. I also I'm not glad that this happened to Tyreek Hill. I'm glad we're having this discourse, because this is another reason why when Colin Kaepernick engaged in his peaceful protest in 2016, why more players should have stood firm and supported him. This is exactly why, because this is what he was talking about. And, I think in a lot of those instances, what we saw in the wake of that is that we saw some players who did protest. And then we saw them meeting with the police and having these community meetings. And I'm not saying that it's not on some level beneficial to have a conversation with the police, but the conversation that the police often don't want to have is about accountability. See, they don't want to have a conversation about qualified immunity. They don't want to have a conversation about how so many officers who commit these egregious kind of misconduct acts, why they wind up getting hired by other police departments. See, that's the conversation they're not ready to have. So until they're really ready to have an accountability conversation, it's going to be tough to have the unity.
Jemele, how about Tyreek's accountability in this particular situation? Like, what could he have done differently so it did not escalate to the point where it did?
Nothing. That is my answer.
He did
Nothing.
everything right?
Because it's not about right or wrong, Stugotz. It's about the fact that, again, the professionals in this situation are the police. And it is not a crime to be testy with the police. It's not a crime to have an attitude. And so what I'm saying is that however people think he behaved and whatever people think about how he behaved, did it rise to the level of him being drugged out of his car, slammed to the asphalt with a knee in his back, and with another officer kicking him? Did it deserve that, is what the question is. And so we find in so many of these incidents, or we've seen so many now at this point, where there are so many, where the slightest little thing becomes an escalation. See, in this case, the person who should be in charge of de-escalating is not the person pulled over. It is the police, because that's their job, not Tyreek Hill.
What do you think is going to happen here going forward?
What always happens? Nothing. I mean, I hate to say that I've reached this point of pessimism. I'm sure there'll be some level of accountability for the officers involved. We see one was already placed on administrative duty for his conduct, because there was clearly one officer who seemed to be very hell-bent on turning this situation into something that could have been potentially deadly. But, you know, we have, at this point, I don't know what else people need to see. I don't know how many more videos we need to have go viral on social media, because it always comes back to the same point, which is accountability. Now, as you all remember, in 2020, there was the Democrats and Republicans tried to come together and create the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. That bill went absolutely nowhere. And a lot of reasons why it didn't go anywhere, because at the end of the day, the police unions are very powerful. A lot of politicians do not want to appear as if they're standing in opposition of the police. And most of what Black and brown people are asking for is just, don't murder us. That's it. I mean, I don't know if that's a difficult message to grasp, but like, don't murder unarmed people. Have some sense of control and professionalism. And there should be some level of accountability that is higher than what we often see in law enforcement. Those are the things that are on the table. And so until we can have some real progress in those areas, I anticipate that we will be in this inertia of a conversation for a very long time.
I want to play a couple of clips for you and have you select which one is the clearer, more coherent explanation. The first is from last night's debate.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Or this right here from Succession.
Gregory Hirsch, executive assistant to Tom Wamsgans, correct?
Yes. Yes, if it is to be said.
I'm sorry?
If it is to be said, so it is.
You can speak to us normally.
Oh, no, thank you, sir. So I shall.
So I shall. That's a tough one, Dan. But ultimately, it boils down to one is fictional, one is not running for president, and the other one actually is running for president. I mean, you know that look that Kamala Harris had on her face? That's the look of a lot of women that we have experienced when you are in a professional situation and you are more qualified than the person that is that you are, maybe in a competitive situation with. It's like, I'm more qualified. I'm making a whole lot more sense. And yet here is this person here who is so unfit and so unqualified. And I'm forced to actually take this person seriously. Like, honestly, my biggest takeaway from that debate was beneath Kamala Harris. It really was. It's just, I have concepts of a plan. I mean, Trump was that kid that came to the front of the class when the project was due, and he had nothing but a blank sheet, and he just going. It would be funny if it wasn't serious. And the serious fact is that you will have millions and millions of people voting for somebody whose best answer after running for president, the last decade is, I have concepts of a plan.
Let's play fill in the blank for me here on what it is that she really wanted to say, because I thought this was purposeful, and I want to know what you fill in this blank with.
And this former president.
that pause right there. Like, what was she thinking of saying that she would have said in private that she realized she could not say in public?
Well, when I interviewed Vice President Harris when she was running for president back in, I believe this was either 2019 or 2020, I asked her favorite curse word, and she said,
"Deserve it."
And she said it starts with an M and ends with an A.
Yes,
I think that's exactly what she wanted to say
that's
to
right.
him.
That is what
it's
she
her
wanted to
favorite
say.
cuss word.
All right. Thank you, Jemele. Good talking to you. Always good talking to you. Appreciate it. We've got Generation CFB next.
Lucy, we're back with another episode of Gen CFB. Oh my gosh, what a wild and wacky and wonderful weekend of college football it was.
It was so great. I just stayed at home. I didn't really do much. It was nice that both of our favorite teams were on byes. Like, it was awesome.
It was great. And we're going to start right off the bat with, I think, the biggest game of the weekend. Michigan and Texas. A humongous deal when a top 10 team loses. So we're going to cover all of it. There are also some big upsets this weekend. Illinois and Kansas, we're looking at you. But let's start with Texas and Michigan. It was a big game for Texas. Texas, wow, they looked really good.
I kind of figured this would happen. We've talked about it a little bit, but like Michigan should have never come into this season ranked in the top 10. Like that was just not appropriate considering every single thing that they had lost. We're at a weird like day and age where we don't know who's good or not. Like, and we never really know until like week 4, except for that I think we can very confidently say Texas is very, very good. They're amazing. I think what like was so impressive to me about this game is I knew Michigan's offense was going to struggle. They have a new quarterback. Everything is kind of wild and wonky, but their defense was supposed to still be really solid, and Texas made their defense look like shit. Like, just like straight up shit.
Texas had definitely a great game plan offensively to try to keep the ball away from some of Michigan's best players. But I'm wondering if you think from the Michigan defense standpoint, is this just a situation where like the longer your defense is on the field because your offense can't sustain drives, your excellent defense looks a little bit weakened? Or do you think that really their defense has just been overrated since week 1 and they're just not as good as they were last year?
That's a tough question to ask me because I personally would never know anything about a defense being really, really good and then having to stay on the field a really long time because their offense is really bad. That's not a situation I'm super personally familiar with.
Fair.
However, I could 100% see how that happened. I think Michigan still has a good defense, but I think that Texas proved that I think they're not as good as we thought, but also Texas is so much better than Michigan was. So, like, Michigan will be fine. They'll bounce back. You're playing Big Ten offenses, which once again, I don't know anything about. Not familiar with Big Ten offenses even a little bit. So that's just a guess, educated guess from me.
There were a lot of like college football fans doing the like, well, I guess Michigan isn't so good without Connor Stallions thing this weekend. It feels like it's mostly tongue in cheek, but is there any truth to them having a very sudden week 2 demise because of Connor Stallions now being removed from the program? Or is this because like a ton of their players left for the NFL and like they have a completely new coaching staff, or both?
Well, didn't Connor Stallions coach this weekend and lose by 60?
Apparently he was the interim coach of a high school game in Michigan. They lost 60-0. It didn't look so good. I guess maybe no advanced scouting for that game, which could be a problem, but yeah, not great.
I hope Netflix makes a doc about it.
Oh man. Well, like I mentioned, there was a big upset this weekend involving the state of Illinois. And that is, of course, Illinois upsetting Kansas, number 19 in the country. Kansas, without their play caller from last season who went to Penn State, who we've talked about before, hasn't really looked as good this year. They had a ton of turnovers in this game, but this was a pretty big win for Illinois to actually get this done. It was the first time they've beaten a ranked non-conference opponent at home since 2011 when they beat ASU, and this was also their first sellout at Memorial Stadium since 2016 when they played North Carolina. Taylor, were you at that game?
I was. Mitch Trubisky was our quarterback. Ryan Switzer, Mac Hollins at receiver. I'm pretty sure that was the opening game that year in Champaign.
Wow.
Yeah.
What history. You saw a sellout crowd in Urbana-Champaign. That's pretty special.
I believe it was Lovie Smith, too.
Yeah, I think it was Lovie Smith. Lucy, did you catch any of this one? It was a pretty big upset.
I did not catch any of this one. Like I said, I was just at home this weekend. Didn't have much going on. But, sometimes things just fall within the cracks. Illinois actually got a guy at quarterback. Luke Altmaier is really good. I don't expect this Illinois team to be solid, but, you sold out a crowd, which they never do at Memorial Stadium. I've been to plenty of games there as well because I was there every year or every other year, whatever. So I'm not crazy shocked by this upset. We're also, once again, like I keep saying it every single time I talk about college football this week, of we still don't know who's good or who's not good. So this win could mean literally nothing in 3 weeks. But I'm happy for Illinois. I'm happy they sold out. Memorial Stadium, not one of my favorite places to go, but good for them.
It was definitely like an Illinois or a Kansas lost this rather than an Illinois won this game, right, Taylor? I think you watched some of this one.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels kind of came into this season, Kansas quarterback, with a ton of hype. And it felt like a game where if Kansas just kept running the ball, they were going to win because their running back, Devin Neal, was averaging over 7 yards per carry. But they would get in these 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s. And it was like Jalen Daniels, let me show these scouts right now how big an arm I have. And there was also a crazy situation in this game where Kansas was up 4 and there was a punt and the Illinois returner muffed the punt. The ball goes into the end zone. He recovers it in the end zone. Everybody on Kansas is doing the safety celebration and the refs are like, no, that's not the rule. It's a touchback.
Well, Taylor, thanks for that update. We're feeling it the cheesiest this season with Cheez-It. It's college football season, Lucy, and Cheez-It's going to be here with us all year to recap the biggest games in college football. And that includes another upset of a ranked team, Georgia Tech, losing to Syracuse. Syracuse, with Kyle McCord in 2 games, has thrown for 635 yards and 8 touchdowns. He is the quarterback that transferred from Ohio State last year, and Syracuse's new head coach has said, thank you, Ohio State. We really needed this. What am I to make of Kyle McCord right now? It seems like he was struggling a lot last year, but also had some pretty good games, and now has been putting up numbers. I know it's only week 2, but Syracuse upsetting Georgia Tech, I think it's fair to say that's a pretty significant win for Syracuse this early.
Sure.
It's September, so they do tend to win in September.
Syracuse, for me, they're always the team that has one funny win every year where you're like, you shouldn't have beat them. How did that happen? I don't think that's this game. I think we've put Georgia Tech on a pedestal for beating a Florida State team that's now 0-2. My thing is, Kyle McCord has looked great at Syracuse, and it's not like he looks bad at Ohio State. I just don't think he was Ohio State standards. Going from C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord is always going to be a downgrade no matter what situation you're at. I don't think Ohio State's necessarily crying. Also, I don't know who Ohio State's played this year. Akron and Akron State are my guesses. So I don't really feel like they need Kyle McCord right now. My thing with Syracuse is if you look at that numbers, 635 yards, 8 touchdowns. What happens if he gets hurt? Syracuse, your whole offense is based around him. And I'm glad it's working out, but that you've put all your eggs in the Kyle McCord basket.
That brings us to another huge Maction game this weekend. I don't know if you caught any of this game. Ooh, it was spicy. Bowling Green and Penn State, the number 8 team in the country, Penn State, down to the wire against Bowling Green. Man, if you're ranked in the top 10, you cannot be playing a MAC school this close. And Penn State, this one was nearly a humongous upset for Penn State. Bowling Green's offense, too, they're a top 90 offense in college football and S&P Plus, but they scored 24 points in the first half, Lucy. Penn State's supposed to have this great defense. What happened?
Pitt State was trailing at half, which is crazy. And this was their home opener as well. Penn State, we watched the West Virginia game and we were so excited because we finally saw what we were missing from Penn State, which was the offensive spark, the playmaking ability. Maybe that wasn't Maybe that's not what our focus should have been on this year. I don't know what's going on with Penn State's defense. I'm sure they'll be fine. Bowling Green, MAC school, probably better offenses than most Big Ten schools. I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't really get what they're talking about there, but I'm not too worried about this happening. It was just funny. It was just a funny weekend.
It's always hilarious when a top team is playing it close against a team that has no business playing them close. Everyone wants to get their laps in, but James Franklin showed his experience as a head coach. He pulled it off. There was another big upset in the MAC. Kent State lost to St. Francis. Absolutely crazy. And their next two games are against Tennessee and Penn State. So not a great start to the year for Kent State. Taylor, what do you have on MAC teams this weekend?
I was going to say with the Penn State Bowling Green game, I think what happened is Penn State looks so good against West Virginia. If there's one college football coach who's going to be reading every good press clipping about them, it's James Franklin. And I think he kind of let that get to his head. And now it's kind of like, okay, we had a close game against Bowling Green. Let's regroup and see where we're at.
Yeah, that's true. There is something to be said for teams that have a huge game in week one and then just have a big hangover game the next weekend. And I think that's probably, you could probably watch the first half of the Penn State game and say, okay, hangover game. They had a big win in Morgantown week one against West Virginia. Now they're playing against Bowling Green, and maybe they were just not mentally there when the game started, but they turned it around at halftime. They won the game. So no upset there, but super close. There was a lot of other big G5 action, Lucy, this weekend. I don't know if you know of this whole backstory with ULM and UAB, but wow. It was like a Bryant Vincent revenge game. He was the offensive coordinator at UAB before UAB was shut down. Then he became the interim coach in 2022 after Bill Clark resigned. He came back. He was not retained as the head coach. Trent Dilfer was hired as the head coach, despite Dilfer never being a college football coach before. He was a high school football coach, and of course, everyone knows Trent Dilfer from playing football. From his playing career. So Dilfer was hired at UAB and Vincent was given the boot. Revenge game. ULM came in, beat UAB. What a absolutely bananas moment for Bryant Vincent.
Huge week for the group of five. I'm glad that's all that happened.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if you want to talk about more like close calls for top 25 teams, the Oklahoma State-Arkansas game was absolutely crazy. Went into 2 overtimes. It looked like Arkansas was doing anything possible to lose that game. Like they outgained Oklahoma State by like 300 yards or something crazy. I don't have it in front of my face right now, but oh my God, was that a absolute giveaway to Oklahoma State to keep them in the top 25?
That was my favorite part of that game was just like not only is like the innate desire of Arkansas to lose, but getting into overtime and both teams missing their game-winning field goal in overtime. Both of them doing it was it was just like the most Oklahoma State-Arkansas game ever. Because Oklahoma State beat South Dakota State last week, which is like actually an insanely impressive win. I don't believe South Dakota State had lost in like several years. So I kind of thought this game wasn't going to go in this direction, but like no matter what the circumstance was, no matter what the score was, I would have put money on Arkansas to find a way to lose. Not Oklahoma State finding a way to win, but Arkansas finding a way to lose. Sam Pittman's seat is so hot. And you know what I think they should do? I think they should go tried and true and promote the offensive coordinator.
And
Bobby Petrino.
We all know who that is, but the one and only. I think losing a game with a missed field goal has to be one of the worst feelings you could feel as a college football player. Like I luckily can't super relate to it, but it must feel terrible. What's up, Taylor? What do you got?
Watching Sam Pittman trying to coach that game made me want to throw up. He was like running time off the clock. His players were like body slamming people in overtime. And it just kept cutting to him and he was just sweaty in the sun. I'm like, man, this guy's having a rough day right now.
He has a certain buyout clause where his buyout is more expensive if he's above 500, right, Lucy? So every one of these wins is really important if you think he's on the hot seat, which like you said, he definitely is after these last couple of years.
He is for sure. And I've talked to Taylor about this before. Arkansas is one of the teams I'm weirdly very interested in because in this NIL day and age, Arkansas is in such a prime spot to succeed because they don't have an incredibly wealthy fan base, but their top donors are Walmart money. They have so much money that they could succeed with. And they're like, nope, woo pig, we're doing this the natural way. Sorry, we need to lose our games.
Okay, Lucy, moving over to the SEC. We had a close game between Alabama and USF for the second year in a row. We had Auburn losing to Cal at home. We had Tennessee blowing out NC State. I want to talk about Auburn real quick, though, because how is this going for Hugh Freeze? Losing to Cal at home, kind of shocking. Like Cal's best player, Jay Knott, didn't even really play that well in this game. I think he's hurt. So what happened there?
Woke mind virus got him again.
Oh, man.
I would say, one, if you haven't, go look at just like the Cal Twitter accounts, not the specific university
Oh, they're feeling
ones, but like
themselves
the
right
top
now.
Cal. They have been, this is the funniest I've ever seen a fan base after a win because they are just hammering this woke mind virus. The thing with Auburn that's so interesting is Auburn is another school that has money, that has donors, and they could have gone out and gotten a quarterback and they were like, nope, we got a quarterback at home and his name is Peyton Thorne. And now you're like, you know what? That he may have been expired. I don't necessarily know if this was the right call. So I didn't really like buy into the hype of our Auburn being really good this year because they didn't make the one change that I felt like they needed to make. But this is just a good old fashioned ACC SEC game with the woke mind virus.
That's true. I mean, sometimes it is really as simple as like your most important position is quarterback. The quarterback had a bad game. I mean, Peyton Thorne threw 4 interceptions in this game. Sometimes bad quarterback games happen and you have to just either move on or move forward with someone else. And so I don't know what the status will be with Thorne moving forward, but definitely a really disappointing game for him. I thought the Tennessee-NC State game went exactly how we thought it was going to go. Nico Iamaleava, not his best game, definitely didn't play as well as he played against Chattanooga, but still looked pretty impressive at times. And NC State just really didn't have an answer on offense.
Yeah, that's what the most surprising thing about Penn State. I don't know why I said Penn State. Tennessee has been this year. Their defense looks great. Their defense has looked really good. James Pierce is one of the best players in the entire country. And so that was kind of what was missing from Tennessee the last few years is like that we've always known they've had this amazing offense. Like to see them sort of pick things up on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I'm not saying that NC State is some prolific offense by any means, but for Tennessee to be able to hold their own on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be really tough in the SEC this year. I think they're kind of like we clearly see Georgia, Texas, and then I think Alabama, Tennessee are kind of at the same level, like right below that right now. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Tennessee pull off kind of an upset against someone who we think is better than them, whether that be Alabama or Georgia.
Okay, we obviously want to preview the Week 3 games, but before we do, Nebraska and Colorado was the primetime Peacock game this week. I don't know if you caught any of it, but Nebraska, good defense. Dylan Raiola looked really good, but Colorado also seems like they're falling apart already in Week 2. There's a story about the band not being allowed to play the fight song anymore. They have to play Shadur Sanders' song, and then Colorado said, no, that's not true, but they do play a few seconds of Shadur Sanders' song. I don't know what's true or what's not true. What I do know, Lucy, is that it doesn't look like Colorado has really fixed any of the problems that plagued them last season. Are things really as off the rails as they looked in this game?
I think I don't even want to say that they're not as nothing's been fixed like last season. I think they've gotten worse slightly. I think they found a way to get worse, which is shocking considering all the turnaround they have in that program. This season was always going to go out play this way for Colorado. And I think that you're looking at a vastly improved Nebraska team who has been the victim of 1,010,000 close losses to teams they probably should have beaten over the last 5 years. So all of this has just been building up and just growing and growing and growing. And Nebraska was going to have that moment. And of course, it comes against not only their rival Colorado, but a team that gets a ton of praise. So I'm not really shocked by any of this at all. Colorado is a bad football team. They're bad. And that's okay to say. They're just not very good.
Sometimes teams that you think are good just maybe aren't as good as you thought they were. And
we wouldn't know anything about that,
Those were the only games this weekend. So we're going to be back after the break with some Week 3 and look ahead to what's coming up on the slate this weekend, Lucy.
So we have a new sponsor to help us preview Week 3 since Jess and I both had this last week off. Not much going on in the college football world there. So this week we're getting nutty with Hampton Farms Peanuts, the official snack nut of the tailgate. I swear that I have seen some Hampton Farms Peanuts at the first game I went to, Texas A&M. I didn't go anywhere last week, so I don't believe I saw any of the Hampton Farms Peanuts because I wasn't anywhere.
I gotta say, Lucy, I love a snack nut.
Love it.
Love it. Thank you, Hampton Farms Peanuts for the sponsorship. Ooh, okay. Taylor, are you able to play us this clip of Bill O'Brien? Because this was one of the funniest things I saw this past weekend. And lo and behold, Boston College, Missouri this weekend, a ranked matchup now. 24 Boston College at number 6 Missouri. Here's Bill O'Brien.
On the TV broadcast, they mentioned that you showed clips of FBS teams beating FCS teams pretty pretty handedly.
I never showed one clip.
Okay. Yes.
Not one time. I don't know where they
Interesting.
got that from. They didn't get it from me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll
Yeah.
always get the truth from me.
No,
I never
that's
showed
why I
one
wanted to
clip
ask.
these guys about
Yeah,
FPS.
they said that
I
on the
don't know.
TV.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know the difference between FPS, FCS, NCIS, CIA. I have no idea. I just know that Duquesne is a tough football team, and we had to be ready to play them. And I never showed one clip of any of that. Never.
Shout out to Bill O'Brien, 2-0 to start the season at Boston College. Just to clear things up, FBS Football Bowl Subdivision, FCS Football Championship Subdivision, NCIS Naval Criminal Investigative Service on CBS, starring former UCLA quarterback Mark Harmon, the son of Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Tom Harmon, and CIA Central Intelligence Agency, known for a number of controversial entanglements, which we won't get into here, Lucy. But you got all that?
I did not know that's what NCIS stood for.
What did you think it stood for?
I thought the N was national.
No, they do
National
like
Criminal Investigative Service.
I used to watch a lot of NCIS for some reason. It was always on like after soccer practice.
And it was I've never seen it. So it's
I thought
all
Mark Harmon was hot.
Naval Criminal Investigative Service
Yeah.
related.
They investigate murders and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes terrorism. There was this guy named La Grenouille the Frog. He was like a French arms dealer. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I think Missouri will win this game. If by chance they don't, what will have Boston College done well?
Oh, I don't know. I think Missouri's going to win this game. I really don't even think it's going to be a question. I think Boston College is another team that we're like, yeah, you beat Florida State. And now we're like, I think everybody could beat Florida State. So I don't necessarily know if that's a top 25 catapult. I think Missouri is better than Boston College. I believe it's a home game. I'm not too worried about this.
I think if Castellanos goes ham and has like 3 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns, just all by himself, I don't know. I think it could be fun. But I'm with you. I think Missouri's going to win this game. Friday night, number 20, Arizona, and number 17, Kansas State.
So for this Arizona-Kansas State game, Kansas State won at Tulane last week in like the weirdest possible fashion. Like they probably should have lost that game because there was a weird like offensive pass interference on a touchdown that would have tied this game up for Tulane that ended up getting called. Like the whole thing was kind of like wonky. So this is probably a game that it should be Arizona's ranked a little bit higher than Kansas State. Arizona has an elite offense. They have an elite wide receiver in Ted McMillan. Like this is going to be like, I think honestly the game of the week. The only reason that we're not really getting the hype behind it is because it's a Friday night game.
Boo.
Not Saturday.
I hate Friday night college football games.
Gross.
I want everything to be Saturday so I can just watch it all like at once on 7 different devices. But you're going to the Alabama-Wisconsin game this weekend. So you're back on the road after your weekend off. Alabama, we saw them struggle again to USF this past weekend, but then in the fourth quarter, they just kind of like decided they were done screwing around and just beat the brakes off of South Florida in the fourth quarter. Wisconsin, obviously, like we've discussed their struggles before, sort of finding their identity on offense after Luke Fickell came in and tried to change the entire program's offensive identity to kind of be redundant. But I have Alabama winning this game, even though Camp Randall, a fun but tough place to play. Will we be seeing a sad jump around in the third quarter?
Yeah, I think we will. Alabama Tampa gets the best of all of us sometimes. You know, it's just a natural thing that happens. That's their kryptonite is USF. Wisconsin struggled week 1. They looked a lot better last week. I just think that Alabama is a lot more talented. Wisconsin's still figuring things out. But the one thing I know about Wisconsin fans is they're going to drink regardless, and they'll show up for jump around, and then they'll leave, and it'll be okay, and they'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, the jump around is one of the things that made me afraid. Like I did a college visit to Wisconsin and did the jump around and was like, this is scary. Like I feel like this stadium is not gonna, it's just moving and I don't like it. But it's a lot of fun. So I'm excited for you. You're gonna have a great time, Lucy.
Thanks.
There's a few rivalry games this weekend too. The Apple Cup, the Backyard Brawl. We've got Colorado at Colorado State, a rematch of that crazy game last year. Went into wee hours of the morning that we all watched. Anything else before we go that you want to talk about, Lucy? The floor is yours.
I believe so. We do have the Apple Cup. I also believe the Civil War is this weekend. So it's a big week for the Pac-12 rejects. I'm not 100% positive the Civil War is this weekend, but Washington State Washington State beat the brakes off Texas Tech, and they'll probably beat Washington this week.
I think Texas Tech is I think they're bad.
They are bad.
They're giving me bad.
But I
vibes.
think Washington is also bad.
Well, there you have it. All right, Lucy. It's been fun. I miss you. It's
I miss
been too
you.
long. I'm sad we were both, very busy this last weekend and had pretty much
Just
nothing
personal stuff
bond
going on.
over.
It's nobody's business, really.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm looking forward to a rejuvenation in week 3. We'll be back better than ever.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. We have Cheez-Its and we have snack nuts, and we're very happy.
We're full. Literally and metaphorically.
Stugotz, how are you?
Are you a Bills fan, Ariel?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. How you feeling
Yeah.
about Thursday night?
That's going down.
If I'm being honest, not great.
Really? Why?
Left hand is a worry.
Yeah.
I hate Thursday night games on the road, especially.
Hmm.
I wish they would abolish them.
Just the road ones, though.
I hate all of them, but
Oh.
especially on the road. I hate all of them. I think, what is this? Short week. These are football players. No, thank you.
Mostert's ruled out, Ariel. I don't know if you heard.
But Ariel, if we said the Bills play Thursday, but they only play at home, you'd be more okay with it, is what we're saying.
No, I just said I hate them all, especially on the road. All right. I think it's crazy. I think it's greedy. I think it's money hungry. But look, we're ready to go. Josh is fearless. He's the best quarterback in the league, and I have faith. I never feel good about my teams. Like I don't feel good about the Knicks, but I know they're going to win the championship this year. It's just
of course,
like
every year.
You can't say he's the best quarterback in the league. You can't say that he's better than Mahomes. What's the matter with you?
Oh my God! Look who Mahomes has around him. Look at the legends he has around him. We've had to rebuild our wide receiver core, and look what he did against the Cardinals. One of the best teams in the league, mind you, with one of the best defenses.
What are you talking about?
Tore them apart.
Which league? I mean, what Chiefs team are you talking
National
about? National
Football League.
Name a receiver. I mean,
I think of you as an objective reporter. I think of you
not when it comes to the Bills. Not when it comes to the Bills.
You are the shining credibility to have emerged from the combat sewer.
Yes.
I think of you as wildly unbiased, trying to be objective at all times. How can you spew this propaganda on here?
When it comes to the Bills, the New York Knickerbockers, and my beloved Montreal Expos, whose blood still remains on the hands of David Sampson and his father-in-law, stepfather-in-law, brother, cousin. I'm still not sure what it is. I am very, very biased, I have to say. Everything else, I'm completely unbiased. But when it comes to those three entities in particular, extremely, extremely biased.
I don't think that we introduced him. He is Ariel Helwani. He's the best in the business at
Finally,
combat sports.
Finally, 3 years, still undisputed #1 video on the Dan Le Batard YouTube channel, and I can't get a call back. And what I would imagine is happening is all the other talent that you've assembled, a great crew, a solid B to B plus, they all feel very threatened by the fact that 3 years ago I popped on this little show and I'm still standing as #1. Go to the YouTube channel, go to Most Viewed, and I'm still there 3 years later. Unbelievable. You know what? That reminds me of something. It wasn't just me on that day, spitting hot fire, dropping pipe bombs left and right. There was another person who joined us, and I think it is apropos that I bring him back. It is, of course, El Nariz. It is, of course, Helwani.
Yes. The nose, Helwani. Yes.
It wouldn't be a Le Batard Show appearance if it doesn't include a mask. So let's go. What do you guys got for me?
right.
What hard-hitting questions do you have
Well,
for
let
me?
me tell the people first. He's got a new deal with Yahoo Sports for a new brand called Uncrowned. It launches Friday ahead of UFC 306 and the Canelo fight. They're dueling on Saturday night in Vegas. And I will tell the people for the first time that I have been trying to hire Ariel Helwani for about 3 or 4 years, and he's too busy getting larger and larger for us to be able to afford him. And now Yahoo Sports has given him a venture, or he's earned a venture that I would say, Ariel, and I don't mean this to sound paternal, makes me wildly proud of you, because it seems like you finally arrived at your dreams, where you have the independence of your empire, and you don't even have to worry about whether Dana White is trying to bully you in MMA or at ESPN.
Well, first, before I get into all of that, thank you very much for having me back. And thank you. When we announced this, you said some incredibly, incredibly mind-blowingly nice things about me, which I don't take for granted. And and will forever be surreal that I can call you a friend. What you did say was accurate. You've, I think, tried to hire me now twice. You're not the problem. AC isn't the problem. Greg, Chris, they're not the problem. Roy isn't the problem. Mike might be part of the problem. Stugotz, I'm still not quite sure what his stance is on me. The big problem, of course, is Mr. John Skipper, who I'm certain still has no idea who I am. One of my favorite phone calls was when he called me and he was like, so tell me, young man, what you do for a living. But nevertheless, he didn't put an extra zero on that check, and that's neither here nor there. We are here. We are here, Dan, to talk about what we are building. And when I spoke to everyone as my free agency was coming up, I referenced you. I referenced what you have built here. I also referenced Pat McAfee. I referenced Rich Eisen. I referenced Dan Le Batard. I referenced Dan Patrick. I referenced, you of course are Dan Le Batard. I referenced Bill Simmons. I referenced people who I look up to as heroes and role models, because long before I ever got a seat at this table, I wanted to be you guys. I wanted to be you guys in the sense of the content that you create, but also the leaders that you are for your teams. I envied that. And I always felt like I didn't quite make it until I got there, until I was able to confidently put my name on my show. Not the MMA Hour, not even Ariel Helwani's MMA show like it was at ESPN, the Ariel Helwani show. I felt like that was an honor that I couldn't bestow upon myself until I felt and the audience felt that I was ready, just like you have had your name on your show. I think that's a big deal. Howard Stern is my hero. That's my guy that I looked up to. He has his name on his show. And now, finally, I feel like I have arrived. And in an era where a lot of people in combat sports and out of combat sports are talking about combat sports and combat sports journalism being dead, media being different now, dead, blah, blah, blah. Here we are creating about 20 new jobs for people on the production side, on the writing side. We've launched this new vertical under the Yahoo Sports umbrella, uncrowned.com. My show launches in October, and I feel like I'm living the dream. I don't feel like I'm competing against you guys. I feel like I'm an extended part of the family, and I feel like I can maybe, a bit of a cocky thing to say, but I feel like I now have earned my seat at the table among the giants who have their names on their shows, the names I just mentioned. And so it's a very, very proud moment in time for me.
Chris, isolate that sound. I would like to hear it back. Ariel, if it makes you feel better, I'm not certain John Skipper knows who I am and what I do.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Ariel, I do believe you are a mighty fine soccer reporter.
You're the EP of your own show. You're the executive editor of your new site, which I mentioned, Uncrowned, for Yahoo Sports. Why was it important for you to take the power back? You and I have had the clip you're talking about that is the most viewed YouTube clip is you and I talking about the secrets of how it is that Dana White tried to bully you at ESPN and where it is that I tried to be some version of helpful in the middle of that. It must feel really good, Ariel, to know that you have all of the power now.
Yeah, and I honestly felt like I always had the power. I mean, just because someone wants to take it away from you, it doesn't mean they are taking it away from you. I've told the story a gazillion times about the bullet in my head and all that stuff, but here I am 8 years later in this position. And so I don't feel like I got it back. I just feel like now I'm able to be a leader. I'm able to bring my colleagues and friends, new and old, along with me. And that's always been what I admired about you and about Simmons and about DP and Eisen. Like, it wasn't just about yourselves. Like what you did at the end of your time at ESPN is one of the most selfless things that I've ever seen. And I admired that. I didn't just want to worry about me. When I left Vox in 2018 to go to ESPN, I left alone. When I left ESPN to go do this new thing with Vox and Spotify, I left alone. Now I come to this new venture with a crew, an army, a squad, and that feels incredibly good. And the people there are amazing. I worked with Ryan Spoon at ESPN. When I saw that he was hired as the president of Yahoo Sports last fall, a light went off in my head. When I met Sam Farber, the head of content there, I'm like, okay, they're building something here. And I see them continuing to build. And I said when I announced, this isn't your granddaddy's Yahoo Sports, and I think some of the old guard, our friend Jeff Passan sent me a cheeky text like saying, hey, chill out on the old Yahoo Sports. I have the utmost respect for Yahoo Sports and what they have been, what they are, what they continue to be. But when it comes to combat sports, they were once something, and then they weren't something. And now we're coming back way bigger than they ever have been. MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, a hub of all things combat sports. My show, we're building a studio. Other shows are coming. Other people are coming. We just announced 5 today. And it's the dream, Dan. It's the dream. It's everything I wanted. Like everyone that I spoke to in this process, there were basically like 5 entities at the end, and everyone was offering me really, really great things. I would have been very happy with each and every one of them. But these guys just kept coming over the top, and it just felt like a perfect situation. And thus far, it has been amazing a couple weeks in.
I will not say this about many ever that I've seen doing this, but I know that what he's going to do is going to be special and good because everything he does is special and good. Uncrowned is the name of the new venture. It's Yahoo Sports. But we got a lot going on this weekend. Can I get some fast music, something? We got to go rapid fire through some of the things that are happening this weekend.
I didn't even make it live, Dan. I didn't even get live. It's unbelievable. Who's making the decisions over there? How is this not live? People are waiting with bated breath for me to be live on the YouTube channel. And I get the post-show spot. Wow. I get the pre-tape spot.
This is not pre-tape. This is live to tape. Tony, give him the questions.
I'm live. I want equals ratings, okay?
It's Thursday. What are you talking about? This is live.
Yeah, sure. My bad. Kayfabe. Did I just break kayfabe?
No, Billy is never helpful. He's just never helpful.
That was helpful, though.
That was not helpful. It's not Thursday.
Ariel, let's talk about the real stuff. UFC 306. We've been promised the most incredible show ever at the Sphere. There are still 1,000 tickets to be sold. There's a lot of things that have been very expensive for the UFC. First, talk about the Sphere as a show itself, and then we can get into the card a little bit.
What about the fact that when I met AC over there, this guy didn't even know what UFC stood for. Now, all of a sudden, he's the MMA expert on this show. I mean, I beam with pride anytime he's talking about MMA so confidently and intelligently on your program. Look, people are harping on this 1,000-ticket thing. Have you seen how expensive the tickets are? 1,000 tickets left. That's not too bad. Let's talk about the gate. Again, going back to what Dan was saying, I could keep it real. What the UFC is doing here is an unbelievable venture. The Sphere has never hosted a sporting event. They may never host another sporting event. It's a very interesting structure. It's costing them over $20 million. The gate is over $20 million. It's going to be the highest gate in the history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Oh, by the way, on the same weekend as Canelo Alvarez fighting just down the road, going toe-to-toe. There's so many storylines as far as this weekend goes that has nothing to do with the fights. The Sphere, Dana White versus MGM, Canelo versus Turki Al-Sheikh, the head man over in Saudi Arabia. There's so many other little storylines in addition to the great fights happening this weekend. It feels like it's been a long time since Las Vegas was truly the fight capital of the world, and this Saturday, it feels like it's the fight capital of the world. I mean, look at that. The logo is great. The Sphere is an impressive structure. I can't wait to see what they're doing. And Dana White is going old school on us here. He's been out promoting. He's in New York doing interviews, all kinds of things. He's putting out videos. He's putting out teasers. This is what promoters do, and he's done a great job of piquing our interest because on Saturday, it's not just about the fights, and the top 3 are phenomenal. Everyone is going to buy the pay-per-view just to see what this thing is all about. And that, to me, is brilliant promotion. So I think it's great, and I think it's great that Canelo's fighting on the same night, a block away. I love that sort of thing. Head-to-head, let's go. The Venn diagram is right here. What's that part in the middle of the Venn diagram? And now, like, the two are coming together, that little, like...
That little sliver in the middle, yeah.
Yeah. I live in the slither with MMA, boxing, and pro wrestling. I know I'm unique in that sense, but there's a 2-part slither happening this weekend in Vegas, and I love everything about it.
Main event, Sugar Sean O'Malley, who's a star in his own right. Could this be the moment that he launches through the stratosphere into being a household name across the country?
Sure, but I think he's already there, to be honest. He has his toughest fight as champion. Merab Dvalishvili is unbelievable. He's like a Georgian Tasmanian devil. Like, the guy just doesn't stop. He has motors for days. He has cardio for days. He obviously is a great grappler. He's a great wrestler. He's developed into a very solid striker. He's virtually unbeatable. Like, he doesn't lose rounds. And you could say that his best attributes are maybe Sean's weakest. But I think people don't give Sean enough credit. The striker he's become, we all know. But I think he's become a great fighter, like a great MMA fighter, a well-rounded fighter. He just hasn't had to show everything. And so we'll see on Saturday. This is a massive, massive stage for him. You're right. He takes a big step if he wins, and especially if he wins the way in which he has won his last 2 fights against Aljo, against Chito Vera. But, man, if he gets by Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov, who is next, like, this is one of the all-time great starts to a title run ever. Aljo, Chito, Merab, and Umar, that's a who's who. That's a murderer's row, if you will. All supremely tough, and just one of those guys has a skill set that is good for Sean. That would have been Cheeto, who he beat 5 rounds to none. This is going to be a really tough test for him. His toughest in the UFC so far, in my opinion.
It's called the intersection
of the Venn diagram.
Yes,
Stugotz knew this.
I
Yes,
figured
of
it
course.
was more of like a sexy name than that. You know what I mean?
No.
Conor McGregor being kicked out of Monaco. It seems like he's an unusual mess, even by his standards.
Was he kicked out of Monaco? I didn't see that. When did that happen?
I just assumed he's generally kicked out of Monaco.
Yeah, I was
It's a good
actually just in
assumption.
Monaco
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
Check
I was
it
at the
out.
casino over there, and everyone was saying,
That's not a look at me,
No, it
Louis.
is.
I
No.
was
Being
just
in Monaco.
No, what Ariel did.
I was-
Yeah, he was
there.
there.
I don't know.
He did it, though.
That's not. I was
No,
just
sorry,
in
sorry,
Monaco.
sorry.
It's not a
No,
look
I
at
was
me,
No, it
Louis.
is. It is.
Oh, sorry. I did. Did you guys not see me at the Olympics covering for CBC? Oh, the content creator. Yeah. No, that was me. That's the old Barry Horowitz. Pat myself on the back at the Olympic Games with a who's who, with the likes of the great Jeremy Schaap in Paris, under the lights. It was unbelievable. While people in my own sport try to continue to say, as I shine up my 15 trophies, where are they? They're somewhere. They're in the attic. My wife put them there. She's tired of me talking about him. They say he's not a real journalist. There he is at the Olympic freaking Games in Paris, hobnobbing with the best of the best. Unbelievable. But you know, I think in this particular moment, I think back to my good friend Paul Heyman. You guys know Paul Heyman, right? Paulie Dangerously. Of course you know Paul Heyman. Is anyone listening to me? Is this on?
No, I know Heyman.
We're not live. We're
John
not live.
Heyman?
We're not
You said
listening.
John Heyman? Yeah.
What's
Baseball
going on?
reporter.
Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman in
that guy.
1997,
Cutting all of this.
before Extreme Championship Wrestling made its debut on pay-per-view. They were nipping at the heels of WWF and WCW, and they were about to make their debut. And Paul Heyman, being the incredible leader that he is, he gathered the troops, and he was standing at the top of the stairs, and he said, "This is our opportunity right here. This is the dance. You may not think this is the dance, but welcome to the dance. And this is our opportunity for everyone to say, yeah, you know what? You guys are a bunch of sad sack losers. You're too extreme. You're not good enough. You're a bunch of, wannabes. You're a bunch of never wases. Or this is our opportunity to say, and can I swear here or no?
Yes.
You're wrong. You were right. Everyone who said that we were dead, everyone that said that combat sports journalism was dead, you're wrong and we're right. Uncrowned.com, October 14th, live show September 13th at the Venetian this Friday. You were right. We're going to be right, and there's a new kid on the block.
Ariel's T-City back.
Brian T. City is fighting Diego Lopez in a very important fight on Saturday. He missed weight and didn't show up. He didn't make the walk a couple of months ago. I don't know if he's back because I'm worried about the weight. I think he'll have more time to make the weight this time, and so I don't think there'll be any issues. But Diego Lopez is here, and we're still not sure where Brian Ortega is just yet. I don't think he's gone, but that's a traumatic thing. Missing weight, not making the walk, getting sick. So this is a tough test for him, but I think he'll be ready. This is a guy who obviously is very proud of his Latino heritage. This is a love letter, if you will, as Dana White has put it, to the Mexican fight community. So I think he rises to the occasion. But man, Diego Lopez is a tough out. So I could only really answer the question on Monday or Saturday night, but I think he makes the walk. I think he makes the weight.
The Ariel Helwani Show, live from the Venetian this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on his YouTube and yahoosports.com. Always great seeing you, Ariel.
Still
You
number one on the YouTube channel. I don't know if we'll beat it
be
with this
working
particular.
here. No, we will
because
not.
you guys were very disengaged. Didn't hit me with anything. Where's Mike Ryan with the hard hitting questions? Where is he? Where is
all right,
he?
no, don't need your criticism now that you're a big time independent star. That's okay. Thank you. Good
I love
seeing
you, Dan. I love you so much, and they better call you to be on that sports reporter show. It ain't the sports reporter without Dan.
You are right.
A lot of mockery coming through here from all angles on a couple of fronts. One, I saw Stugotz and Jess both working really hard on the fly, improv, trying to think quickly when Jemele Hill was saying that Kamala Harris's favorite word starts with an M and ends with an A, and that she wanted to say to Trump, this starts with an M, ends with an A, instead of this former president. They were trying to come up with a word. I heard it sort of ping-ponging around the room. It was going to be this mocha. And then as soon as the segment ended, both of them clapped their hands and they're like, Meshuggah.
Oh.
This Meshuggah would have been the word to choose there.
I was like, Madonna? No, I can't. I couldn't think of
Maradona.
one.
Yeah, but you guys are making more fun of me for calling it Generation CFB instead of Gen CFB.
2 times.
What's wrong with calling it Generation CFB?
Nothing, Daniel. It's proper name.
We don't have Jen on that show, so Gen CFB is Generation CFB, right?
Jen.
Who is Jen?
Who's Jen?
My wife?
You got this, Jessica.
Is it not? So it's not called. It's not called. I thought it was called Gen CFB. I thought that's what it was called.
No, it is. No, like Jen. But you mean with a G?
Jen. Jen.
Yeah, Jen. Yeah.
I thought it was
playing off Gen Z, Dan.
I know.
Oh,
What are you
but,
talking about
making
here?
sure you were.
but Gen Z is Generation Z, is it not? Like I understand.
I think we're all on the same page.
It doesn't feel like it.
I never hear anyone say Generation Z. Like it's everyone just says Gen Z. So it's like when you said Generation CFB, I was just like, that's.
But
not
you
it.
also said Jen isn't on it. But then who is Jen?
Who's Jen?
Who's Jen?
Right.
I'm
Jess
saying
is on it.
that you guys were correcting me
Jess.
as if Gen is short for generation.
And Jennifer.
Also short
Which
for
is the
Jennifer.
confusion here. I
Right.
think.
Yes.
The question is, who's Jennifer?
Right.
Billy, I haven't heard from you in a while. It's good that you decide to get involved here.
Well,
It's
he's trying to help out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's real.
I'm trying to
suspicious
organize the
that
picks for
is-
this week on God Bless Football. It's a whole
Morikawa.
thing.
Oh.
He's busy, Dan. Dan, I have a confession to make. I think that our loyal listeners are going to be really unhappy with
Well,
that
they
last
already
segment.
are. They are. This is what they're upset about, Jen. This is what bothers them. They've had 3 days here of wanting to taste your tears on Notre Dame, and we have not given the audience what it wants there.
And I agree. And I wasn't on the schedule Monday, which I think would have been the best opportunity. And then, unfortunately, I wish this hadn't happened either, but Tyreek Hill got detained by the police and the video came out. So we spent like the whole show on Tuesday about that. So
And the
this is-
NFL happened, which
right,
worked to your benefit.
That's true.
Right,
So this is the first chance that we've gotten. But then Lucy and I were like, let's do a bit to piss everyone off. And we went full steam ahead on that because guess what? We get the show.
Are bad losses at home Marcus Freeman's thing?
It appears so. It appears that is in fact his thing. And you can write them off in year one. Year two, he lost to 3 pretty good teams, but one of them was a very winnable game at home against Ohio State. But in year 3, it's harder to make excuses about it. I don't really know what there is to say other than Notre Dame's got a big quarterback problem.
I know what to say. Belichick?
I wonder, Jessica, if people, what they want from you is just to sort of know where you were, how it impacted you, how bad it ends up feeling when, the biggest home loss of the season so far is your team. And we know that if that had happened to Mike, we would all be jumping up and down on his neck. And so people want to know how it is you experience
Mike
that.
is also a booster at Miami, so kind of a slight difference there.
But
He's also here on Monday.
But he didn't go to Miami.
I don't make the schedule, Stugotz.
He didn't go to Miami. You went to Notre Dame.
True. I was actually, my sister was in town. She moved back to the States. She was living in Madagascar for like 6 years, so I haven't seen her a lot over the last few years. So she came in town, and I thought, this will be a fine weekend for her to come in town. There's a lot of football on, but Notre Dame's playing Northern Illinois. So if I have to miss some of the game, it should be fine. But then I made the crucial error during the Texas A&M game. I bargained with God, and I said, God, if you let Notre Dame win this game against Texas A&M, they can lose to Northern. I don't care. I want to win this game. Wow. And so I spoke that into existence, and I think it's actually my fault. So not only did I watch the game, I watched like half of the game with my sister who was like, what's this? What's going on? Who's that? She went to Notre Dame, by the way. She just isn't, when it comes to sports, she's like an alien. She doesn't know anything. And my brother-in-law, who's not from America, who also was like, so there's 4 downs? And I'm like, I can't do this right now. So I was like, let's go to a bar with no TV, and I'm not going to watch this, and I don't care what happens, and I'm going to put my phone down because I already bargained with God, and I know this is not going to end well for me.
This is your fault.
Who does God like in Bills-Dolphins -2.5?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. I'll have a chat with him later tonight and figure it out.
And let's be honest, Notre Dame losing, while it was a bad loss, they can lose 2 more times and still make it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
and that's why college football is ruined, Dano. I mean,
Well, why is it, though? Because Lucy says she doesn't want to hear from anybody when Iowa loses. Lucy said that she didn't come after you when Notre Dame lost, but I do feel that one of the great joys in sports is coming after your friends when their teams lose, unless your friends are they care so much that they're actually heartbroken by the result, and now what you're doing is not funny. It ends up being cruel because they're already defeated.
but the key to doing that is your team needs to win. In their case, both teams lost. Like both of their teams, they both lost. So she's going to make fun of her. She's going to make fun of her.
No, but Lucy says she wouldn't. Lucy said whether her team wins or loses, she's simply not going to do that to Jessica. And, man, we stepped in it with Sarah Spain. Do you remember when the Marlins and the Cubs were playing? Sarah Spain didn't think any of that was funny when we were just teasing her about games she cared about in a way that was unreasonable. And I don't think that your fandom for any team, and do I have this wrong? Because you actually watch all of this with a smirk, but I thought that your fandom for Notre Dame was stronger than it is for most teams.
The thing is, Dan, like once we get to Wednesday, I'm now at the point where I'm like, this is deeply and darkly very funny. And there's like, it's the kind of fandom where like Notre Dame could lose this game every week for the rest of my life, and I'm not really going anywhere. So like, oh well, fuck it. But the audience doesn't like to hear that, so I'm gonna start fake crying.
Yes,
take a minute.
the audience feels like it was denied your tears.
Just fire somebody
for 3 days. Let's see you suffer. You know what it's like to be at a Catholic school. Let's put her on the crucifix and have her suffer.
I want Jen's tears.
Yes, Jen.
I was crying Monday, but I wasn't here.